Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 53. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday. Steelers Nation, Dave, getting ready for Week 12, already underway after the Thursday night game last night. Pittsburgh will travel to Chicago to play the Bears Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So an interesting game there with an opponent we don't often get to see or discuss. And of course, still wondering and waiting on official word of who will start a quarterback for Pittsburgh in this game, Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. Seems to be trending towards Aaron Rodgers, but no official determination has been made as of Friday morning. So Dave, how you doing?
Happy Friday. It's raining out here in Vegas. It's been raining last several days, unusual for this for out here, but yeah, doing fine otherwise, and getting ready to and looking forward to seeing this game against the Chicago Bears. And we don't get to cover a lot of Steelers Bears matchups, obviously, because of the rotating schedule, and specifically Steelers playing in Chicago is something we don't get to see a lot. On top of it, the Bears are 12-1 against the Steelers at home, dating back to 1936. And the only win the Steelers have had in Chicago came against the Bears in 1995, and that was in overtime to boot. And the Chicago Bears, there are, I think, 5 teams in the NFL, Alex, that Mike Tomlin has not beaten on the road in that team's home venue, and the Bears are obviously one of them. I think the Vikings is another one. The Saints, the 49ers, and Philadelphia are those teams there. So obviously a lot of NFC teams mixed in there. But interesting game with Caleb Williams and all, and we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a beat writer to talk to today as well.
Yeah, got a great one. And Adam Hogue, who covers the Bears for All City and CHGO Bears, the host of the Hogue and Johns show. We'll talk to him, get his insight on Chicago in just a little bit. But Dave, let's start with the health of these teams. Aaron Rodgers trying to play Chicago at Soldier Field one last time. He returned to practice on Thursday in a limited fashion, according to the team, was spotted wearing a brace on that injured left wrist with that fracture somewhere in that wrist. And so that was the first step in determining, am I healthy enough to play? Can I protect myself? And am I functional enough to go? We still don't know the answers to that. Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, reporting that Rodgers, quote, looked really good in practice. So signs seem to be trending towards Rodgers, giving it the old college try, but we'll see what the Friday report has to say. Team is still generally in a good direction health-wise. Only one player not practicing Thursday. That was Cam Hayward for rest. Of course, he'll play this weekend limited. In addition to Rodgers, Jaylen Warren missed Wednesday with the ankle injury, limited. Thursday, he should play Sunday. Isaac Seumalo limited with the pec. And Alex Highsmith, also pec injury, limited. Seumalo should play, been managing that. Highsmith, we'll see. That's certainly going to be one name to watch. In addition to Rodgers working in full yesterday, Keyshawn Williams, Cole Holcomb, Darius Slay, Williams, and Slay are working through concussion protocol. Slay, I'm very confident will play. Williams certainly going in that direction. And Cole Holcomb should come back after missing 3 games with that unknown illness.
Yeah, and ESPN had some good footage of Aaron Rodgers trying to do what he could do yesterday in practice in his limited session with some sort of a black wrist contraption or whatnot. And obviously Mike Tomlin said earlier in the week that Friday would be a big day for him. So I'm interested, does he... you have to think he's going to be at least limited today, and I guess the hope is that he goes full. And does he get the questionable tag, or does he get Does he end the week without a game status tag? And obviously, if he ended the week without a game status tag, you'd expect him to play. So, going to be interesting to see how the Steelers end the week up, and we won't know that until after this show runs. Jaylen Warren, definitely hopeful that they can have him in some capacity this week, and then Alex Highsmith, obviously, be nice to have nice to have him back after missing last week with that pec. So we got a couple of names in there. The three obviously we'll be watching are Rodgers, Jaylen Warren, and Alex Highsmith, because I'm with you. I think Sayamalo looked no worse for wear coming out of that game last week with the pectoral injury.
And we'll check on Keyshawn Williams, see if he can officially exit protocol. If not, then Pittsburgh may have some new faces at returner. Calvin Austin, not a new face, but returning punts. And then we'll see if Deshaun Jameson sticks on kick returns. Of course, that would require a Saturday elevation because he's not currently on the 53-man roster. Yeah, the thing with Rodgers, and people will know later Friday, maybe when they're listening to this, what that official status is. But even if he's listed as limited Friday, what does limited mean? It just means less than 100% of a player's normal repetitions. And so does that mean he got 95% of the snaps? We saw Lamar Jackson was supposed to be limited because he got every snap. It was a scout team, not with the first teamers. And so there's a little bit of vagueness with what limited actually means. So we'll just have to see. But of course, the official game status, which will probably be questionable, like you said, is going to determine a lot.
I tell you what I'd do. Even if he's quote unquote close to being full or whatnot, I'd hold him out from a couple of snaps so I can list him as limited and then list him as questionable, and just to play a little bit of a gamemanship game. But look, I think probably everybody on that side of Chicago is probably geared up with their coaching staff to face Aaron Rodgers here. And once again, it's not like if you're facing Rudolph or Aaron Rodgers here that the offense is changing all that much, right?
Right, and Bears DC Dennis Allen, a veteran, one of the better DCs in football, spoke about preparing for both quarterbacks yesterday, and he's well in tune with Aaron Rodgers. Ben Johnson is, being in the NFC North for so long, and one of Aaron Rodgers' worst games ever. It came against Dennis Allen, I think, back in 2021 to open up that season. So I think they're going to be prepared either way. But like you said, a little gamesmanship never hurt anybody.
Yeah, we both feel he's going to play, though, right? At least right now.
My expectation as of Friday at 10:21 a.m. for sure. From the Bears side of things, and Adam will talk about this a little bit more as well, but a name to watch here is Tremaine Edmunds, their star off-ball linebacker, brother of Terrell Edmunds, and he's got a groin injury. He has not practiced this week. Don't know what his status for Friday will be, but that would be a big loss if he can't go. He's been all over the ball, 4 interceptions this year, really athletic linebacker. They might be getting some good news, though, in the secondary with Jaylen Johnson, their top corner. He's been on IR since September. He practiced in full on Thursday. Adam said that was kind of a surprise to Bears beat writers, so he might be back in this game and potentially could get back Kyler Gordon. He was limited on Thursdays on IR as well, but probably less of a chance for Gordon to play than Jaylen Johnson. So that secondary in Chicago might be stronger for whichever quarterback they face.
Yeah, if they don't have Edmunds, this is a Bears defense that hasn't been overly great against the run. So you talk about taking one of their key cogs out of the middle or not having him at 100%. That's something else to look at kind of close heading into this game. So we'll watch and see what the injury report says. Jaylen Johnson's still on IR technically? No or yes?
He is still on our IR.
So,
he would have to be activated.
Right.
Yes, his window's open to return.
Right. So Saturday we could have a couple of moves to report as far as activations, and then we'll see if they have any elevations that maybe tip off some signs as to whether or not Edmunds will play if he ends the week listed as questionable. But yeah, Edmunds is certainly a name to watch in this thing when it comes to the Bears injury report.
I mean, they have a couple linebackers down. TJ Edwards and Noah Sewell, who's Panay's brother, also did not practice on Thursday, so they could really be hurting a linebacker if Edmunds is unable to play. But we'll see what the Friday report has in store. All right, Dave, let's go to the coordinators. Arthur Smith, Teryl Austin speaking yesterday, and like usual, nothing crazy in here from either coordinator. Arthur Smith talked about preparing for both quarterbacks and some of the uncertainty over not sure exactly who's going to be the guy. And Arthur Smith's been here, done that, got all the T-shirts, talked about last year with right before week 1. What was it, 3 days before kickoff? Russ goes down with the calf injury again. They're scrambling to Fields last second. Of course, you had the Russ and Fields back and forth midseason who was going to start, and I'm sure a lot of other past experiences for Arthur Smith. So I don't think they're exactly freaking out with who's going to be the quarterback and how a rep's going to go, and will Pittsburgh be ready for this game?
Yeah, and I don't think they're freaking out as far as the rotation of the running backs as well, too. And specifically, I think Arthur Smith was asked, about the 2-minute drill at the end of the half, and Jaylen Warren doesn't get on the field. Was that predetermined plan that you had on offense? Did you just want to get Kenny Gainwell in there? What was the reason? Blah blah blah. Anyway, in so many words, he likes to think of both those running backs in Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell as interchangeable. So, look, obviously Warren, especially on first and second down, he's been out there a lot. Really has provided some good pop. You probably would have played a little bit more, obviously, in this last game against the Bengals had he not sustained the ankle injury, and most of the game obviously ended with Gainwell in there. Gainwell fantastic in the passing game. We saw him do a lot of stuff out there in space in the passing game, and that's been consistent with all year, but a little less to be desired, in my opinion, when it comes to using Kenneth Gainwell in the running game. So, it's a big thing here, I think, to have. And look, even if Jaylen Warren plays in this, we're not expecting to see him on third downs, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been that plan. And, I think on first and second down, I really have no qualms about the rotation of backs. Warren has been the first and second down backs the majority of the time. He occasionally gets a spell. That's fine. It's some of the third down stuff and some of the more third and medium and some of those big critical moments where you just want your best players on the field. Now, to Smith's point, and as you said, he talked about that they have 2 guys who are third down capable. Most teams have 1 third down back, guy that they can trust in protection, a guy that they can trust to catch and have that skill set beyond being a runner. Pittsburgh obviously has 2 in Warren and Gainwell. That gives them an advantage, but would like to see Warren a little more of those third down situations, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4. Gainwell getting that 3rd and 2 carry, got stuff up the middle. That's a situation where Warren needs to be in. I get end of the half. In theory, it might be, well, you're completing passes, you're going hurry up, you don't have time to sub out, you don't want to sub so the defense can sub as well. But there were so many penalties on that drive and roughing the passer calls and timeouts where Warren could have easily sub back in. So I still wish he would have played more in that 2-minute drive, but I do understand that Gainwell certainly has a role and certainly can play that role well.
All right, we've started to see Kaleb Johnson get a few more touches here and there the last couple of weeks here, and Arthur Smith was asked, will Kaleb get some more touches here moving forward? And his answer was, hopefully we get in a game where I can call 40 runs. That would be nice, he said. We have yet to get there to a 40-run game. It would be nice to do that on Sunday. Hear, hear. Because if you're running 40 run plays, how many pass plays are you? Well, they could probably get close to 70 if they had such a amount of play calls there as far as runs go. Do you think we're going to see 40 runs though against the Bears?
I don't think so. I want to see 40 plays is the first step because Pittsburgh sometimes doesn't get too much further above that. So, yeah, it was interesting. It's kind of the comment of you want to be able to have enough volume that you need to rotate these guys and substitute and play some different people with the run game. But, Johnson got some extra carries with Warren going down and has slowly been kind of integrating himself into the offense in moments, either to start a drive occasionally or to get a couple snaps in relief. I don't know if there'll be a real plan for him this weekend on the road, maybe, but there's been some very slow but noticeable progression.
All right. What about the tush push? Hopefully we don't have to see a whole heck of a lot of it. Means they're converting and not getting themselves into a lot of those short yard situations. But what did kind of Arthur Smith, I guess, hint at when it comes to the tush push and all?
Yeah, he teased a counterpunch. He said, quote, you always have counterpunches off of it, and if the situation comes up, maybe this Sunday, maybe the next Sunday, we'll see what happens, and then joked he did not want to get himself into trouble, either by tipping his hand or criticizing the officials for not always being able to officiate the play correctly with guys leaving early and that play not being called, always as it should be. So gotten a lot of emails about that, about can you run some sort of variation off of that? Can you do something different with Aaron Rodgers? And Smith touched on that as well, that in theory you could split out Aaron Rodgers, but even if the free safety goes over and covers him, neither's going to be involved in the play, whether the free safety is 15 yards off the line of scrimmage or lined up like a cornerback. And so it's really just about who's kind of in the box in that scrum that determines how successful that play is and who wins the down. So we'll see on a variation. Smith certainly said he at least intimated he was open to the idea. Teams have done it. Mark Andrews touchdown this past weekend off of it, spinning away and running to the outside. But I'm okay with just pushing and plowing ahead each time.
Yeah, don't try to get too cute there. And I was going to hit on the Mark Andrews thing with the Ravens as well too. Did that ruin it for a lot of teams around the league, because they're going to be probably on high alert, because that was such a talked about play because of how the design, and boy, the design was great, the execution was great and all as well too, and to see a big tight end like that run for a touchdown on top of it makes you kind of, it had to be a topic of conversation around the NFL in short yardage situations, that hey, just be mindful that things can happen out of a tush push type situation there.
Sure, put your antennas up. And other teams have run variations. The Patriots have run it with Henderson. I think the Eagles have run a couple variations, and they're, of course, most famous for the tush push. I'd rather plant that seed and have that defense wondering in the back of their mind, what if it's not a tush push, and then just keep plowing ahead rather than actually trying to risk. Because like you said, if you ever run one of those variations and you try to run some sort of crazy handoff or spin out and you don't get it, man, you are just going to be ripe for the pick, and you're going to have to face the firing squad there on the internet. And, how do you not plow forward and get 2 inches while you're trying to be too cute and trying to overthink it? So I'm okay with just keep going forward.
All right, the rest of what Arthur Smith, or most of what Arthur Smith had to say, is about getting kind of 2 quarterbacks ready, and Mason Rudolph and all like that, right?
Right. And I think they're in a good situation to be prepared. You got 2 veterans, you got a veteran OC, you got a guy like Rudolph that's been in all situations in terms of how he's entered games and his overall readiness. He's gotten practice reps. Rodgers is getting some practice work as well. So that particular component's not scaring me. It's always tough to go on the road, a pretty new opponent. Of course, it won't be super new to Rodgers, but I think in terms of making sure Pittsburgh has a good structure in terms of having a quarterback who feels ready to play and a scheme that feels ready to support it, I think Pittsburgh's in a fine spot.
What you think we're going to see if Aaron does play? Do you think we're going to see pistol and shotgun and a lot less under center, if any, under center, because of that wrist?
Well, I think practice Friday will kind of continue to tell that, and how Rodgers feels by, say, Sunday will influence that. You go through probably some pregame warm-ups and just see how the exchange looks and feels, and if there's any sort of hiccups or any sort of additional pain for Rodgers. But Rodgers has mentioned pistol. I was thinking about this the other day. Pistol is the universal NFL sign for my quarterback is injured, and so we have to do something different. Pittsburgh has done that with Ben in the past. Remember Kirk Cousins last year using pistol early in the season. It's the wave the white flag of our quarterback is hurt, and we have to run the offense a little bit differently. So, yeah, I could see some of that. I've always been a proponent of pistol. I still don't get why the NFL doesn't use it more outside of my quarterback is hurt situations, but I think you kind of go through the week and go through warm-ups on Sunday and take it from there.
Were you disappointed Arthur Smith was not asked about Dennis Allen and the whole Atlanta Saints thing?
Yeah, we'll give some backstory. You shared the clip. This is from Smith's last game as an NFL head coach in Atlanta. There was a little bit of a post-game, not season's greetings between Arthur Smith and Dennis Allen.
Yeah, I was surprised that he wasn't asked about that, but that'll obviously be back page storyline heading into this one. You have to think Arthur Smith wants to put it to Dennis Allen in some way, shape, or form.
I'm sure, but what does that actually mean? Does it make him a better play caller on Sunday? It just makes him shake his fist in excitement if he wins a little bit more. That's kind of all, I think, the way that it manifests itself. But so what was the story there with that? That was the Saints had scored a late touchdown, like Winston had a quarterback sneak or threw the ball and
supposed to kneel it down or something, and then, something like that. Yeah.
And then Smith and Allen had a pretty heated exchange. Smith took issue to the Saints, scoring when there was no need to, and then I think Smith was fired the next day. So that's how things ended up there.
Yeah, and he said something about bull excrement or something like that.
Yeah. All right, Dave, let's go over to Teryl Austin, and not a whole lot there. Talked about the Jalen Ramsey going to safety full time has simplified the defense because whenever Ramsey was playing cornerback, then he would shift from inside corner to outside corner. He played safety in base packages, and so there was a lot of moving and shaking and not maybe gaining some continuity between the new pieces in the secondary. And so Austin thinks with Ramsey playing safety full time, it's helped create that continuity, especially, of course, when Kyle Duggar is coming in relief of Deshaun Elliott.
All right, Austin opened up by being asked, who's responsible for covering the quarterback on Sunday, meaning Caleb Williams. He says, all of us. It's going to be an all-day job, rush coverage, being able to plaster, giving guys time to get there, knowing when you can come out of coverage and get them. Everybody's going to be involved. Pretty generic answer there. How about when Caleb goes out and routes? The quarterback, when he goes out and routes, will handle that. That's not an everyday thing. However, we've seen the Bears last couple of weeks or really all season, and Mike Tomlin hit on this the other day, just to send the message out that he's watched the tape too, and that you could probably count on some sort of gadgetry at least once or maybe even twice in this game against the Bears, right?
Yeah, and the reason why they was asked about Caleb Williams running routes, he's got a touchdown pass this year.
Did I say Johnson or did I say Williams? Hopefully I said Williams.
I'm not sure, but either way, yeah, Williams has a touchdown catch that came against who was it? The Bengals or the Jets?
I think.
Bengals, yeah, from DJ Moore to Williams, so a little kind of Philly special type of play there. Yeah, Ben Johnson gets deep in his bag of tricks. They've run a ton of trick plays. So they got tight ends throwing passes, receivers throwing passes. They got 19 wide receiver runs this season, so a lot going on. Coaching staff with Antoine Randall, so a receiver who has a history throwing the football, of course, that Steeler fans know well. So a lot of background there. So expect the unexpected, because in Chicago, it is not unexpected.
Absolutely. All right. He was asked about Nick, something we've talked about recently, about Nick Herbig and his ability to rush on the inside. Sort of the hub of what makes that possible. And Teryl Austin said, well, I think Nick can rush from anywhere. He can be, if he gets the space needed, he can really be hard to block for guys inside because of his quickness. And that's something we highlighted once again this past week. So Teryl Austin goes on to say, so that is one thing that is attractive about that package, but we also like Nick rushing outside, and he should, obviously. And I think the packages gives us the flexibility to deploy him anywhere. It will be interesting to see how many times the Steelers can get that. And you did a great job of breaking that down this past week in the film room. Will we be able to get to see about the same or a little bit more of that? Will depend on down distance situation and all like that. One good thing about wherever Nick Herbig rushes on this field is that quickness of him and the athleticism, the ability to change direction. And when you're dealing with a guy like Caleb Williams, the way he spins out, and look, he holds on to the football a long time. And I think you even noted, and this plays back into the John Rice Plumlee usage and signed to the practice squad, and some of the clips that we saw this past week of him in practice about holding that ball out there with and not having it protected. They seem to have one kind of drill where they were ball hunting with Rice Plumlee and trying to get that ball out there. So the good thing with Nick Herbig is he is a guy that can probably can match Caleb 1-for-1 as far as the athleticism and the chasing goes.
Yeah, it's going to be a full team effort to keep him contained, not let him extend some of those plays. But I thought Plumlee was given some really good looks. Frankly, I'm surprised they were allowed to tweet that kind of stuff out to kind of show Plumlee mimicking Caleb Williams. Did a good job with kind of his spins. Now, I noted Williams has 15 fumbles over the last 2 years. That's tied for second most in the NFL. Bears fans immediately jumped into my mentions and said there's been a lot of bad snaps. Williams' ball security has actually been pretty good, but still for a guy that does, whenever he spins around and scrambles, the ball will drop on his hip. It'll drop away. Those are things you look for. Can we take advantage of that, even if other teams have not done so far? And also, you saw in that clip, it was the inside linebackers repping that. And so could you see some inside linebacker blitzes to try to help contain Williams and get some of that A-gap pressure and then take advantage of him whenever he does spin out, because he will drop that ball low and away on his hip. And Pittsburgh, of course, is a ball-searching type of defense. So I thought there was some really good scout team. Look, scout team is such an important thing that never gets noticed because it's all behind the scenes, but you have to let those guys give that first team defense, the right looks, not just an overall scheme, but how players play, personality. Plumlee did a good job in that clip. Go back to, ever see that clip, the Dolphins preparing for Max Crosby, and they had one of their scout team guys pretend to be Max Crosby and just do some of the annoying hidden things like bump the quarterback after the play and just kind of try to piss him off. So scout team is really important to kind of get a feel for how game day is going to go.
Yeah, and other than putting a live chicken out there to have him chase like Rocky Balboa, I guess you could do worse than having Plumlee. Look, you're not going to mimic him one for one when it comes to Caleb Williams, obviously, but certainly makes sense why they did what they did with the practice squad this week.
And then to go back to the outside linebackers, like you said, Herbig's flexible, and Austin also praising Jack Sawyer, saying, quote, pleased with his progress and how he's doing it, and staying in that formation or staying in that grouping depends on how we're playing in that grouping, referring to that 3 outside linebacker package. But Pittsburgh has to earn the right to use that package. They have to eat their vegetables before they get dessert, which means stopping the run, which means putting teams in third and long, playing with a lead. Then they can have fun and use those 3 outside linebacker looks to create some havoc after the quarterback. So it's not something you can do on 1st and 10, not something you can do first play of the game. You're going to have to earn that throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, and stopping the run is really, really going to be important in this because they really have done a good job of trying to stay on schedule and keep those runs going with Swift. And, one thing that I bring up later in the show to Adam Hogue is the fact that they lead the NFL, I believe, in rushes of 10 yards or longer, and Swift has like 21 or 22 of those, and I think Kaleb has 11 or 12 of those to go along with it, on top of it. So if they can get this defense in third and longish type situations, because Caleb's only been sacked, I think, 16 times in total there. There are going to be opportunities to chase him and get him on the ground. So we'll see how this, how the John Rice Plumlee's been able to help and maybe manufacturing a couple of sacks in this one.
Last thing from Austin that I had to note was the variations in coverage. There was a good tweet by Warren Sharp the other day to kind of note the yin and yang and the switch up of the coverage looks from single high to two high, kind of game over game. Pittsburgh presenting new coverages and being a little less static and less predictable as that cover 3 single high type of team. And Austin talked about that you want to mix things up and play to the game plan and let teams be able to really dial in with what coverage you're going to use. And I think Pittsburgh's done a good job of that. One reason why this defense, the secondary, has improved.
Yeah, and look, this is going to be a Bears offense. It's going to try to push the football down the field some as well, too. Caleb Williams has increased his average yards per attempt by, I think, like a yard 1.2 or 1.3 yards over his last season, as Adam Hoge also tells us, and which is evident. New head coach / OC Ben Johnson goes hunting for those explosive plays. So if they're going to have to do a better or do a good job in that secondary of especially when Caleb likes to hold on to the football. He still has one of the longest time snap to throw times in the NFL here. And if you give him that time, he will push the football down the field to those wide receivers and tight ends too.
As Adam talks about, they hunt for explosives, which is a great way to frame that. So anything else from the coordinators, Dave, that stuck out to you?
He was asked about, and another thing that probably we didn't, we said it was coming in the last show there, and it's obviously official now. We've been talking about it the last few weeks here with Corey Trice Jr. after his 21-day window open, and immediately had that kind of knee injury that added on to the hamstring issue he was coming back from. That window, 21-day window, is officially closed. He'll remain on IR the rest of the season. And Teryl Austin was asked about how frustrating it is to see a guy like Corey Trice that just can't seem to be healthy and contribute. And why don't you talk about his answer?
Yeah, let me make sure I find it here. On Trice, he says, quote, "It stinks for him. He's such a great young man. He works his tail off. He was always here just working. He's had a setback his first year, and he came back," and just kind of echoed that sentiment throughout the rest of his answer. A guy that's worked hard, has tried to come back, shown some moments, but injuries, of course, have really dogged him. But he says that Trice is already plotting his comeback in 2026. Obviously, it's, you take it all with a grain of salt, unfortunately, and you can't expect him to make it through healthy, and you can't count on him to be any sort of part for this defense. But we'll see if he makes it through the offseason. If Pittsburgh keeps him around, he's still on his rookie deal. It's still a cheap contract. The talent's still there. Just been the worst injury luck in the world. So just, you feel for those guys.
Yeah, and look, he's under contract the final year, 2026. He's going to, assuming this isn't, season ending or anything, and it doesn't sound. I mean, obviously it's this season ending, but or career ending, I'm guessing. But he has had tremendous amount of injuries throughout his college and pro career at this point. He's going to get one last shot at this probably next summer, right? And he better stay on the field.
Right, and I assume they'll keep him, but they could cut him if they just want to cut ties. I mean, we don't know what happened with the knee injury. There was a video of him the other day, and he was walking around. It seemed okay. Now, he's wearing sweatpants, and it's a very short clip, and so we can only glean so much, but he wasn't on crutches. There wasn't a boot. There wasn't anything noticeably wrong with him in the very narrow, quote unquote civilian clothes he was wearing in that window that we saw. So I'd like to think he didn't suffer a torn ACL again or something like that. But obviously enough that's going to keep him out for the rest of the season and closed up that IR to return window. So we'll see what it looks like next year if there's anything to look at all.
All right. Anything else from Teryl Austin catch your attention?
I mean, that was the last question. It's become a really popular topic. I bring it up with Adam here. We'll talk to him in a second about teams not matching personnel. So a lot of teams will go, okay, if you go big, we'll go big. But some teams are trying to change and flip that script, and we're going to play the situation. So if you want to go 2 tight ends on 3rd and 8, well, we're not going to be in our base. We're going to stay nickel. That's kind of a simplistic way to describe it, but that's the overall vibe. And I don't know if Austin really understood the question or gave a great answer to that, but that's kind of a very popular topic right now. If defense is trying to stay one step ahead, and the Bears are a team that will not match personnel, they kind of have a different personality, and so that's kind of relevant for this week. Pittsburgh is a team that generally matches personnel, but there are some wrinkles, some big nickel against troll personnel, athletic tight ends. I guess they're 2-5 against on rundowns is still kind of matching personnel, but Pittsburgh has still generally been a team that will match your personnel pretty much 1-to-1.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how they match those 2 tight ends this week specifically, right?
Yeah, could you see big nickel this week? I'm trying to think all the pieces, with some of the safety issues. If Elliott was healthy, then maybe you would have a greater chance of seeing that, but kind of being a little bit shorter at safety behind your starters. I don't know if they will deploy that, but we'll see if any wrinkles. They've tried that 2-5 where they get kind of Peyton Wilson as the overhang player, a little hybrid role there. They could try that, so we'll see what Pittsburgh has in store.
All right, and as we kind of talked about coming out of the last podcast as well, too, the arrow's really been pointing up with guys like Nick Herbig, Joey Porter Jr., Keanu Benton. You have a nice film room on to show some of the differences as far as him be able to move to the other side and add some things into his repertoire. And as we kind of talked about there late, I think in the other show there, you've got some tall tasks these next several weeks, starting on Sunday against Chicago, and then obviously the Bills, and you've got some mobile quarterbacks. So this is going to be a good litmus test run with the Ravens included in there as well too, of how specific guys such as Herbig and Porter and Benton, they need to stay on that upward trend that they've been on for the last several weeks. Herbig, I'm less worried about, and Joey Porter, I've become a little less worried about. Just would like to see Porter make a few more plays and take the football away. But in coverage in general, he's been a lot better than a lot of people probably think overall. And I think that's a point that you had coming out of the last podcast as well too. And Benton just needs to continue playing well, not only against the pass but against the run. He's really turned a corner there, I think, coming out of like the Minnesota game.
Yeah, the Minnesota game is where it really started for him. And then I think the Colts game was that next step against a really good offensive line. The Vikings had so many injuries that game. It was kind of a tough situation there. The Colts game really opened my eyes to this guy balling out against some really good dudes. So, yeah, these young guys must step up. They must continue to keep ascending because the road does not get any easier going forward.
And all 3 of those guys could, at this point, legitimately see contract extensions during the offseason right now.
Absolutely, but they got to run through the tape and play great the rest of the season to really maximize those chances.
All right. Shall we get to Adam here?
Yeah, let's get to Adam Hogue. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Hogue, that's spelled Hoge, NFL analyst for All City, the host of the CHGO Bears podcast, also the host of the Hogue and Johns podcast. And so great insight from Adam. Let's take a pause and come back with him.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday, and that, of course, means we are welcoming in a beat writer who covers the opposition for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. And with that being the Chicago Bears in a game that's going to be played in Chicago on Sunday, we are pleased to have a first-timer on the show. He covers the Chicago Bears for the All City Network and specifically allchgo.com. I am talking about Adam Hogue, and you can follow Adam on Twitter at Adam Hogue. That's Hoge. He has a great podcast with his podcast partner, Adam John. So that's easy to remember. Two Adams there covering the Bears, but we have Adam Hogue on the podcast today. Adam, welcome to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.
Hey, Dave and Alex, how's it going? We're getting closer to this one. It's a weird one with all the injuries, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically on the Steelers side, we're watching what's going on with Aaron Rodgers, a name you know well from the Chicago Green Bay Packers days and all. We'll have to see how this plays out. We've got a feeling that Aaron's probably going to be listed as questionable on the injury report later today, but I think the growing sense is that Aaron Rodgers will give it a go. Adam, let's start with the Chicago Bears on offense. Obviously, you talk about the Bears offense, you got to talk about Kaleb Williams in his second year, Ben Johnson first year as the head coach there. He's having a very good season, second season overall. From a 30,000-foot look, what have you seen as far as progression with Kaleb Williams in his second season? And, I like to say that you don't really know a lot about a young quarterback until he has around 20 or 25 starts. And he's obviously at that point in his career right now. So, what have you seen as far as development with Kaleb Williams in his second season?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing progress. I mean, first of all, you can just kind of look at the numbers and look up and see that the Bears are running a much better offense. They're 10th in the league in EPA per play now. They have a strong running game. And Kaleb has technically 5 come from behind victories, game-winning drives. I don't fully count last week since he didn't actually throw a pass on that drive, but it still goes down in the record books for him. And I think beyond that, I mean, you just see, and we're not used to seeing this in Chicago, but competent coaching paired with a talented quarterback, and it's starting to come together. What did it look that obvious earlier in the season? No, it didn't. In fact, training camp was pretty sloppy, pretty messy. But that's because they were, really putting Kaleb through the ringer. They dropped him right in the deep end, said, hey, you got to learn how to swim here. It was pretty rough when it came to pre-snap penalties, and understanding the offense and really everything that he had to learn in a very short amount of time with, not enough practice time. But you started to see it really come together after the Bears bye week. And they managed to get to 2-2 before that, which was big. And then after the bye, the running game took off, and all of a sudden you start seeing those pre-snap penalties start to clean up a little bit. And then it still hasn't been perfect, but Kaleb has shown an ability to play more on time and in rhythm, which was certainly not the case last year when he took 68 sacks. And those sacks are a big number too, because I think he's only at 16 at this point on the season, so he has dramatically lowered that number. Obviously, having a stronger offensive line and some of the additions that they made there helps too. But a lot of that has been, Ben Johnson's offense, Kaleb Williams' development within the offense, and learning how to get rid of the football, and then his God-given ability to run around sometimes and avoid those sacks on his own.
Yeah, 16 sacks on a season, that sticks out as far as being down. I think another thing that sticks out on tape and statistically is he's pushing the football down the field by, I think, a full yard more than his rookie season as far as average depth of target. Now, people will look and say, well, what's up with that 59.7% completion percentage? I know at least on tape the last 2 or 3 games that I've watched on the All-22, there's been some drops associated with that as well, too. But but he is pushing the football down the field more. He is still scrambling. I think he's got one of the highest scramble rates and all, but he's making something of it. In fact, I think the Bears lead the NFL in 10-yard runs or more. I think he's got 11 or 12 of those, and obviously DeAndre Swift has like 20 something of them as well too. So he's holding on to the football still a long time overall, but they're getting him out of the pocket and all. Is the biggest concern with the Steelers about keeping him contained in the pocket overall? And it's easier said than done, I know, but is that one of the biggest concerns the Steelers should have, is trying to just keep him contained?
That's an interesting question because Caleb doesn't want to play out of the pocket. I mean, he really would prefer to hang in there and throw the ball. He said this really going back to his USC days. He can run. He doesn't really want to run though. He'd prefer to stand back there and just deliver the football. So, it's kind of pick your poison there, because if you just keep him contained, but you still give him time in the pocket to find somebody open, he probably will. So I don't know that this is necessarily like, back when you would be like the last time the Bears played the Steelers, Justin Fields was the quarterback. That would be more of a game where it's like, man, if you could just keep this guy in the pocket and make him throw, you're probably better off. I mean, really, I think with Caleb, in this offense, really the first thing you want to do is stop the run. And then, from there, if you can pressure him, great, but he can kind of beat you in a number of different ways. And I think that's kind of the beauty of his talent. In terms of the completion percentage, I prefer to look at it more as like an accuracy thing. I saw a stat this week that said if you factor if you add up all the drops, his actual completion percentage would actually be 65%, not 59. Now, you could do that with a lot of teams. Every team has drops. It does seem like the Bears have had more than really they should. If anything, on this offense that I've been disappointed with this year, it's been the receivers, because this was on paper is a pretty good unit, group of receivers and young talented ones with Roma Dunze and Luther Burden, and they're doing an okay job. It's just sometimes whether it's the easy catch that gets dropped, or sometimes you got to help your quarterback out. Not every pass is going to be perfect. And I don't know that this receiving group has made the tough catches this year either. And so I really think Caleb, if there's one area where he could still be getting more help from his teammates, it's really from his receivers. The obvious one is don't drop the football.
Right.
The less obvious one is sometimes, man, when he makes an incredible throw down the sideline where he contorts his body, expecting that to hit you in the numbers is a little unrealistic. So make a tough catch. You're in the NFL, and I don't know that he's really gotten that type of help from these receivers most of the season. So, is his accuracy perfect? No, it can tend to waver from game to game and even quarter to quarter sometimes. Certainly the deep ball accuracy, if you go back to even the start of the last week's game, back-to-back third downs against the Vikings to start, they took some deep shots and they didn't connect. The second one in particular was a wide open one. You got to hit to DJ Moore, and he just didn't quite set his feet. He kind of rushed it because of some pressure and completely missed it. So those are the areas where I'm sure if you're Ben Johnson, you're trying to still get this cleaned up. This has been an explosive offense, which you mentioned, both running the ball and passing the ball. And that's been all season, really, from the start of the season on. But that's a Ben Johnson thing. They hunt for explosives. And the crazy thing is, as good as they've been with their explosive percentage, there's been plenty of missed opportunities that they haven't connected on.
Adam, one guy who has been making plays lately is rookie tight end Colston Loveland. Had that big game against the Bengals. He's really come on strong. Is that the natural progression of a rookie tight end, just finding his way, or have they really concentrated on getting him the ball more often?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both. It was easy, myself included, to be constantly looking at what Tyler Warren was doing in Indianapolis earlier this season when Colston Loveland was off to a slower start. But I think if you really dug deep into those scouting profiles, and don't get me wrong, I was a Tyler Warren guy. I probably would have taken Tyler Warren ahead of Colston Loveland, but I like Loveland too. But part of that reason was because I just felt like of all the tight ends in the draft, Tyler Warren was ready to go. I mean,
Mhm.
he's just a football player. He's somebody you could plug in any offense, and he's probably going to help you. Didn't really matter where he ended up, and those players are pretty rare, especially at the tight end position, because usually it takes a while to get going. And Loveland, though, probably has a higher ceiling, which is why the Bears took him. But with that, you had to be a little bit patient. And on top of that, he was drafted with a shoulder injury because he had shoulder surgery coming out of Michigan last year. And so he really didn't participate much in the pre-draft process. So you knew it was going to take a while. He wasn't full go until like a week into training camp. He missed all OTAs. And then, I think he went through every adjustment, the same adjustment that most rookie tight ends do, because it's a completely different league and you need to learn how to block at a higher level. I got to say, though, blocking's not really a problem for him. They kept saying that, like, hey, no, this guy can block. And I remember, our guy, Nate Tice, in the pre-draft process was on our show just saying, hey man, what, this guy can block, this guy's really good. And then so it was kind of like something clicked a few weeks into the season. You started to see that. I think I'm forgetting what week it was, maybe right after the bye week, maybe a week or two after the bye. There was kind of I think a realization from the coaching staff, the media, the fans. Everyone was like, all right, it feels like it's time to start getting Colson Loveland the ball more. And then so there was a little bit of an emphasis on it, I think, but also this offense is always going to take what's being given, and I think so it was just kind of Colson Loveland's turn in the offense, and he took advantage. Obviously, that play, that game clincher against the Bengals, was one of the biggest plays in the NFL this season. And he made two guys miss, kind of ran right through them, and he's actually had a pretty clutch catch in each of the last 3 games. Last week he had another one where it was sort of a gotta have it moment. He made 2 Vikings collide into each other, and he kept going. So he's been looking pretty good here. And if you're the Steelers, you definitely got to be aware of Colson Loveland is this weekend.
I know things can vary, but can you sum up the personality of this Ben Johnson team? It feels like it has been more tight end based, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, a little less, 11 personnel. How would you kind of sum up the overall personality of how they try to make all the offensive pieces fit?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely put the Bears, along with teams like the Steelers that love to run 2 tight ends. Now, there's been sort of an emphasis on it the last few years, even before Ben Johnson got here, and the Bears would sign these guys like Robert Tonyan and Gerald Everett, and it just really wouldn't work. And then Cole Kmet would end up having to play, both positions. And really, finally, I think they're in a spot where Cole Kmet could play the more natural inline tight end position that he's good at, and then have Loveland be more of the move tight end. And so they finally have that combination, and it's working now. They don't quite run as much 12 as the Steelers do. Um, But it's a similar rate. It's really that the Steelers run less 11. That's the thing. And that's what I
They
think
run
been
less
cool.
plays too.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, Ben Johnson's hunting for 70 plays a game, and most weeks they've been right around that number.
We're hunting for 50 over here.
So, and that would probably be wise for the Bears this week too, to ball control, keep that ball away from Aaron Rodgers. I'm assuming Rodgers was playing, by the way. But to answer your question, what's been cool though is and Ben said this when he got here, and I think the good coaches do this on both sides of the ball. There's coaches that say this is what we do and we're just going to do it no matter who we're playing. And then there's the coaches that really look at every single game like its own opportunity, and they'll change things up. So we've seen weeks where, particularly the Commanders game comes into mind, where the Bears ran a ton of 11, and because they felt like that was just what was going to help them win that game. And then there's been other weeks, last week, they ran a lot of 12 and even 13 at times. Guys, they ran 3 personnel on one play where they had no running backs out there and 3 tight ends. So and that's not something that it's not like we've seen that a lot this season. So you kind of got to buckle up if you're the Steelers, or really any team that's playing the Bears right now, because Ben Johnson can throw something at you in any given week that they haven't shown you on tape at all.
I know Ben Johnson runs the offense overall, but I'm really interested in the backstory of the offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, just 29 years old, youngest coordinator in football. Why did Johnson tab him? What's the backstory, and what kind of role does Doyle have during the week and then during the game?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ben put together a pretty impressive staff when he put this whole thing together, getting a defense coordinator like Dennis Allen, retaining a respected special teams coordinator in Richard Hightower, going out and getting like an Al Harris, Antoine Randall L. It's a really Dan Rochar, the offensive line coach, is well respected around the league. So it was a really impressive staff. And then there's this guy Declan Doyle that is like you just this random young tight ends coach from Denver. Like what is this hire? It's easy to be like, did you struggle to find somebody that wanted to operate as a non-play caller in your shadow, Ben Johnson? You know what I mean? Like that. I think that's a fair place to go. But in reality, the actual backstory, there's a couple different connections here. One is the obvious one is Sean Payton. And that's really more of a Dan Campbell. So you connect all the dots, right? Dan Campbell was in New Orleans, Sean Payton, then Ben's with Dan. And so there's really underlying in all this, even though Ben Johnson's never coached with Sean Payton, is the Sean Payton influence. So Declan Doyle was in New Orleans with Sean, followed Sean to Denver, and the Ben Johnson was also a tight ends coach. Part of the reason, so was Dan Campbell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason that is, a track for Ben that he likes is because the tight end, and we were just talking about it with Colson Loveland, right? The tight end is where the passing game and the running game come together. You have to know the entire offense. You have to know the entire scheme, all the blocking schemes, all the routes. Like you really have to know the entire offense as much as like the quarterback needs to know almost. Other than the quarterback, the tight ends are most involved in everything. So as a coach who's coaching the tight ends, there's that idea that you have to be entrenched in the entire offense. There's also Ben Johnson is really, and we're seeing this, and it sounds so stupid sometimes, but the offensive line is very, very important. But it's like some people say that and they don't really care about it. And then there's others that are like, no, everything starts and ends with the offensive line. Ben Johnson's one of those guys. And if you look at Declan Doyle too, he got started at Iowa, and at Iowa, pretty much every offensive coach was at some point an offensive line coach. So there's that just sort of background, and they just apparently see the game really, really well. They started a relationship a couple years ago, I think, at the combine, and that's why he went with them. And so far, it's been a very, very good fit.
When you look at finishing up on the offense, Drew Dahlman's having a fantastic season, probably one of the more underrated centers, and would not be surprising. Obviously not a household name, but he should get some Pro Bowl, All-Pro votes, at least the way his season's going so far. Like what they're doing with DeAndre Swift, the sidecar look that they did, a little toss out to the edge. He can run both inside and outside the tackles. They're real good with the duo blocks up front and all, but this is definitely an offense that likes to lean on the run, play action. I think Caleb's doing a great job with play action. Shifting over to the defensive side of football, and you can feel free to jump in about whatever I said about the offense there, but on the defensive side of football there, I think the thing that stuck out the most to me is that this Bears defense is giving up some yards on the ground and in the air and all like that. But man, when you look at them on third down specifically, this is a tough Bears third down. I think 33.7% conversion rate on third down. But if they get you in 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 6 and longer, I mean, it's under 20. I think it's like 15-something% conversion rate there. And this isn't a heavy blitzing team overall, I don't think either. Now, they do have the takeaways over there. Their plus minus as far as takeaways go is best in the NFL. And I think they lead the NFL or close to it in interceptions there. What is the mantra, I guess, of the defense? What is the personality of the defense? And did I describe it right? They'll give up some yards, but they're damn tough on third down.
Yeah, no, that's kind of been what saved them, takeaways and their third down percentage this season, because they have definitely given up a lot of yards. I think that's it's really due to two things. I mean, the most obvious weakness on this team that's not going to be fixed is just the lack of pass rush. They're paying Montez Sweat like he's an all-pro edge rusher, and he just really isn't. He's a solid player, but he's probably better suited to be like a number 2 pass rusher compared to a number 1. And on the other side of him, they've had injuries. They signed Dio Adengbo. He got hurt. He wasn't really doing much before that anyway. There's some other younger guys like Austin Booker that you'll see out there on Sunday, but he's not as strong against the run. So they've been really kind of struggling to figure out the pass rush this season, and that's probably not really going to change. The thing that could change, and we already saw it, I mean, the fact that Jaylen Johnson ended up on the injury report yesterday as full go was pretty unexpected to us. So it's possible he's back, and that's a number one blue chip corner if you can get back. Now I don't know if he'll be on a pitch count. He hasn't played since week 2, but where I'm going with that is they just need to get healthier, because they've had injuries on that side of the ball, pretty significant ones, really going all the way back to training camp when Jaylen Johnson showed up to training camp with a groin injury. Tried to come back from it, didn't work, made it worse, ended up having surgery. Kyler Gordon is a huge piece in this defense, sort of that chess piece that Dennis Allen can move around. That's really where they like to get extra pressure since their pass rush on the D-line isn't strong enough. They will bring CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's actually, despite only being on the team for 3 weeks, he was 3rd on the team in sacks already.
Real physical guy too.
Yeah, and they can move him around. So I'm really curious this week. If you look at the linebackers, it's I don't know as we're talking right now on Friday who's going to play and who's not. But TJ Edwards has been out a lot this season. He probably won't be back. Tremaine Edmonds, he's been really. You talk about Pro Bowlers. He should probably be a Pro Bowler this year. And he finished the game the other day, but apparently has been dealing with an injury that's tough enough that took him out of the first 2 practices of the week. So if he can't go, I really feel like that changes a lot on Sunday. It might even change the game, to be honest with you, because they're just so depleted on defense. I don't know, unless they just have a barrage of takeaways again, how like that 3rd down percentage to me would dip a lot if Tremaine Edmonds isn't out there on Sunday.
Gotcha.
To touch on and the follow-up on Gardner Johnson reuniting with Dennis Allen, like you said, immediate role, played every snap the last 2 games. There's been a lot of discussion globally about teams that won't match personnel 1-to-1 and they'll play the situation. The Bears are not playing their 4-3. They're playing that 4-2-5 nickel, Gardner Johnson, that nickel corner on the field the entire time. Has that unlocked something new for this defense to try to be ultra flexible and having a guy like Gardner Johnson that can still be physical at the line of scrimmage, but also be a better and more apt cover guy?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not a whole lot of guys that you can sign in the middle of the season that are going to make a huge difference. But sometimes you have one of these veterans that has been around and might be available for, whatever reason. With CJ Gardner Johnson, he hasn't, I don't know that he's meshed in every locker room he's been in, but he had a history with Dennis Allen. And so sometimes you just get fortunate. When Kyler Gordon got hurt a second time, they were really happy to have Kyler Gordon back, and then he got hurt again, and all of a sudden it was like, okay, now what do we do? And CJ Gardner Johnson sitting out there, and it was a big signing. Now the question is, when Kyler comes back, what are they going to do? Because he's been playing so well, I don't think they can take him off the field. But they're obviously going to play Kyler, and now Jaylen Johnson's back. So this is what I was talking about with getting some of these pieces back. It could really boost this defense if they can just get healthy, even without a consistent pass rush. I would imagine that, the cool thing about Dennis Allen and his defense, he's a lot like Ben Johnson, that they're willing to be flexible from week to week. It's a little scary to me to maybe have dime personnel out there when you got a big tight end like Darnell Washington out there so much.
Right.
But when you run as much 12 as the Steelers do, maybe this is actually a good week where if they're a little light at linebacker. CJ Gardner Johnson is probably one of the few nickel players that can be out there still against heavier sets and survive. You're gonna have to get creative with your coverages. But he's been kind of a godsend for this defense, came at a really good time. And I think as long as he stays healthy, he's going to continue to be a big part of this thing, even after all these other guys come back.
When you look at the Bears and the Steelers this time around, Aaron Rodgers obviously the storyline. What's the temperature there with fans? Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has had a lot of success against the Bears over the years, specifically in Chicago as well too. Are Bears fans hoping that Rodgers play?
It's been a big topic here. I think they're probably split. I'm on the side of, and maybe it's because I'm in the media, but I'm on the side of I want to see Aaron play. I just think it's a more entertaining game and entertaining matchup. But there's definitely a sense that you got to send Aaron Rodgers off with one final loss at Soldier Field because they are few and far between. He has absolutely dominated the Bears Packers rivalry. It's been a few years since they've played, obviously, but to me, you want to play the best, and this is an opportunity where you can get that win. But to give you guys an idea, like, and if for Steelers hopes, I mean, Aaron Rodgers loves playing in Soldier Field. He has said that throughout his career. He absolutely loves it. He loves beating the Bears. And no matter how these games have gone, I can't tell you how many Bears Packers games I covered where the Bears are in it, whether they were big underdogs or not. They're playing well. They're keeping kind of things underneath. They're controlling the game. They usually have a fourth quarter lead, and then Aaron Rodgers just throws one of those moon balls up like that doesn't even, it just seems like kind of like a prayer, and there's some busted coverage on the back end, and the Packers would win. It was mind blowing how often that would happen, like just back-breaking losses against Aaron Rodgers. So that's the thing Bears fans will be fearing the entire game. Like, even if the Bears are winning, if it's a one-score game and Rodgers is out there, there's just kind of like that one big play that could happen at any time. And we'll see if that comes to fruition one more time with Aaron Rodgers against the Bears.
All right, we know we got to get you out of here. Final score prediction, and we'll let you go.
Man, I've been still struggling with this one. So I don't know if I have an exact score. The injury report and the Bears, especially the linebacker situation, is screwing with me. I'm at this point still leaning Bears. There was a moment yesterday where I was like, all right, I might just hand this to the Steelers, but then Jaylen Johnson popped up as maybe still playing, and he's just a really good player. I tilt it back to the Bears' favor for me. So it's not the best answer at this point. I will pick the Bears in a close one. They just keep finding ways to win these games in the fourth quarter, and until they prove otherwise. And usually it's the opposite when I'm picking Bears games in past years. It's like, well, until they prove they can win, I'm not going to do it. This year it's been the opposite. They keep finding ways to pull out these games, so I'm going to say the Bears win.
All right, Adam, we appreciate having you on, first timer on the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex here, and good luck this weekend. Enjoy the game. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thanks, Alex.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Adam Hogue for his time and his insight and perspective on the Chicago Bears. Be sure to follow him on Twitter and give him a shout at Adam Hogue. That's Hoge, and follow him on the CHGO Bears podcast, also the Hogue and John's show. So we appreciate Adam for his time.
Absolutely, we do, and a first-timer as well, too, and obviously don't get to talk to Bears beat writers all that often, and I tried to keep him about 20 minutes way too long. He had to get to recording his podcast, and that's why it kind of got wrapped up hastily at the end there, because we overstepped our time with him, and that's my fault there, but great talking to him, learned a little bit more, learned some names to watch on this injury report as we talked about earlier in the show here, moving into Friday overall. So it was great to get his insight. And hopefully, if you're listening to this, you will reach out to Adam Hogue on Twitter and thank him for his time.
That was a really great answer on Declan Doyle, that OC over there. I know it's the OC sort of a name with Ben Johnson running the show, but it's still a 29-year-old coordinator. What were you doing at 29? Were you running part of an NFL coaching staff at 29, Dave?
No. I was. Okay. I think I was running a coffee branch up in Savannah, Georgia. Around.
Oh, you were running that at 29 at that point? I didn't know what time you kind of broke into that. Okay, so you were doing some big things at 29. You weren't gallivanting around.
No, I was trying to act like a professional, I think.
All right, there you go. So, Dave, let's preview this game. first place teams, but I think teams who feel like they don't have a super strong hold on first place in their North divisions. The Bears 7-3, the Steelers 6-4, combined point differential of +8 between these two teams, and so they get a lot of teams hot on their heels, and the Packers and Lions for Chicago and the Ravens for the Steelers. So yeah, don't talk about these two teams too often. As you said, Pittsburgh has only won one time in Chicago back in 1995. So Pittsburgh trying to break some history. Of course, they don't play in Chicago that often in the first place. But let's start with this Bears offense that really feels revived under Ben Johnson. Caleb Williams, a strong second year, a bevy of weapons, and the offensive line has really had a facelift, and Dahlman and Joe Tooney to really elevate this whole group.
When you look at this Bears team as a whole, I think the thing that jumps out to you is their net differential on takeaways, giveaways. So we're talking offense and defense as an overview on them. They have a net differential of 16 to the positive, and that is strong. Obviously,
number one in the NFL.
They have 22 total takeaways in total. 15. I think they lead the NFL in interceptions with 15 overall. Here, 22 total takeaways. They've only given the football away 6 times, 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles. And anytime you protect the football and you're taking the football away like they are, and you have a net differential of 16, that's obviously going to keep you in a lot of games, and it's going to result in probably you winning a lot of games. So I think it starts there just as a 30,000-foot view. When you look at the Bears, it jumps out to you. When you look at offense specifically, the last couple of games, I've watched the 2 against Minnesota and the 1 against the Bengals a couple weeks ago, and the Bengals one was a wild game. A lot of moving up and down the field. You obviously had some returns in that game that impacted as well. But this Bears offense stays dedicated to the run, and specifically in close games, they don't freak out if they're behind. They stay committed to the run. DeAndre Swift's doing a great job. I like how they use the motions in there. I like how they put Caleb will function both under center and in the shotgun. He does a good job. They lean on the run early enough in games, and they have enough success where play action really sinks its teeth in, and you see this against the Bengals as well too. They really get those linebackers to suck in and follow the football, and that leaves the intermediate area of the passing game open for some of those over routes and all like that. I like what they do with lining up DeAndre Swift as kind of a sidecar in the shotgun. They'll do that quick kind of toss. They'll get those tackles and guards out space along, and the wide receivers seem to be mostly willing blockers as well too. They will puncture you both between the tackles and outside the tackles. So I think that's what sticks out to me. You've got to make sure if you're the Steelers defense, you're on your keys and everything along with that, because sometimes your eyes can potentially fool you with what they do offensively. So you've got to shut down the run first and foremost. You've got to get this Bears defense in third and longer type situations. And even then, with what Caleb Williams does, his ability, he's got a high scramble rate there. I kind of disagree a little bit with Hogue about the containment there, because look, they'll do some things where they'll roll Caleb out and all like that, but he's not afraid to take off with the football. And as I mentioned, with them leading the league in 10+ yard runs, he has 11 or 12 of those on top of it there. So yeah, it might not be one of his favorite things to do, but he has a way of avoiding either by design or by just extending the play. He has a way of getting loose back there, and he's only been sacked 16 times. And for as much as he was sacked last year, that's a development all in and of itself. So he is a quarterback now that once again is trying to push the football down the field a little bit more. He's got some good wide receiver options out there. They're starting to get that Luther Burden a little bit more involved in things. And we talked about how they seem to be leaning in. Even though you look overall, I think they're 11 personnel versus 12 personnel usage on the season is slanted obviously a lot more heavily to 11. It feels like they're leaning more and more into their 12 personnel grouping and kind of being, less predictive as far as that goes there. So there are a lot of different weapons on this Bears offense to contend with. But first and foremost, you've got to settle down this run, because if a guy like who's the running back? Swift. Yeah, if Swift is able to run to hit these 5, 6, 8, 9, 10-yard runs, that really keeps them on schedule, and they are so dangerous in second and short type situations.
Yeah, those are all really good points. I think about this Bears offense, try to think about a big picture, zooming out. What are the couple things that are notable you have to stop? First down, play pass, they really like that. The third down crossing patterns. Can you get some takeaways? Only 2 turnovers in the last, 4 or 6 games for Chicago. Can you stop some of these emerging young guys? Burden, like you said, his snap count is increasing. Loveland, as we talked about with Adam, he's had a bigger and bigger role week by week recently and had that big game against the Bengals that you referenced. And so can you calm down and not let those young guys continue to emerge? And can you get to Caleb Williams? Like you said, the sack rate is the biggest difference I see in year 2. In year 1, he was sacked 68 times, sacked almost 11% of the time. This year, on pace to be sacked just 27 times, and the sack rate that is cut by more than half. And so that's the number one difference I see in terms of how this offense has changed year over year in terms of the getting rid of that negativity and moving forward. So that's kind of where those things start for me in terms of what the Bears lean on and what they're good at and what Pittsburgh has to be able to combat.
And as we mentioned before we got to Adam and all, and he talked about this as well too, Ben Johnson goes hunting for explosive plays. So you've got to be mindful of that. You got to look. They'll have some great design screens, throwback screens. We saw Caleb catch a touchdown, I think it was against Cincinnati there. So there's going to be some sort of trickeration, I think, involved in this game on a couple of plays here. You got to be ready for pretty much anything when it comes to this Bears offense, but they'll try to elongate you with some of this motion. They're not afraid to run out of 11 personnel either, so you're going to get a lot of mix of 11 and 12 personnel here. You're gonna see both these tight ends used. Their center, as I mentioned to Adam there briefly there, Drew Dahlman, I think, is having an exceptional year. They got some talented guys there at guard and Joe Thuney, formerly of the Chiefs, and Jonah Jackson's obviously a name coming over from the Rams. We know a lot about Darnell Wright, former first-round draft pick that's over there at right tackle, and a guy that's good out in space, and a guy that I was like, who is that? Theo Benedict. I didn't know, college free agent in 2024. He's better out in space overall, but I mean, they're definitely not afraid to run behind him, and he's done a fairly decent job in pass protection overall. But there's one clip against the Bengals, I don't know if you saw it, where they ran a toss to the left side. He took that cornerback and just or the defensive back on that side of the field and just ran him all the way into the bench. So this is a very athletic, or at least out in space, this is a good offensive line. And once again, they'll run the whole gamut like most teams. They'll run inside zone, outside zone. They'll run those tosses to the outside. They feel like they can run any scheme, any direction, and yeah, they're a good unit, and you got to keep them out of these second and shorter type situations, because that opens up the whole playbook to them.
It's a really good point by you about the offensive line. We focus so much on the trick plays and the quarterback and the receivers and all the skill players, but it starts up front. And some of the first moves Ben Johnson made whenever he became the Bears head coach was bolstering that offensive line, trading for Joe Thuney, trading for Jonah Jackson, developing Darnell Wright, signing Drew Dahlman. Those were all big ones. And yeah, Wright's really come into his own. That was the guy that we thought could be a Steeler in that class. Will it be Broderick Jones? Will it be Darnell Wright? Will it be somebody else? And I think Wright was off the board by the time Pittsburgh traded up to take Broderick Jones, but he's really playing good football for them. That offensive line has anchored things, and that's a big reason why this offense has moved forward. And Johnson recognized the need to improve that offensive line and do so immediately with a bunch of veteran-type guys. The question I have in this game, Dave, is Do you blitz Kaleb Johnson? Do you not? Obviously, there's going to be a mixture, and you're going to be a little selective, and sometimes you'll blitz, and sometimes you'll back off. But I think it's a guy that part of me wants to blitz him because I
You
want to
better
be
not
able.
miss.
That's the downside to it. That cuts both ways, that sword. And so if you blitz him, you're creating one-on-ones in the back end. You're increasing the chance of explosives. And if you can't contain him, and he does break contain, then it's harder to plaster. And so that's going to be, I think, the real interesting chess match it is for this game, Dave, is do you blitz him and how often and when, and can you be successful?
Yeah, that's a good point. And
because the Vikings blitz the crap out of him. Flores blitz him, I think, 2/3 of the time, and I think had some success. I think Caleb Williams missed some stuff, but I think the Bears are expecting a blitz-heavy approach, and does Pittsburgh try to counter that by not doing it? I don't know.
He has been blitzed. It just looks in general 35.5% of the time in overall here. And here's the thing that I think stuck out in me doing some of the study on Caleb here. Not necessarily blitz, but he is at his worst when he's just pressured in general.
Mm-hmm.
So
how is he done against the blitz in particular? Regardless of pressure, do we have numbers on his success?
Get that for you against the blitz here with Caleb. 57.8% completion percentage. His EPA is a positive 21.9, and his EPA per drop back is a respectable plus 0.17. He still has an air yards per attempt of 9.2, so he's still able to push the football down the field, and his time to throw is still even one of the higher ones when blitzed at 2.95 2.95 seconds there from snap to throw time here. Now, here's the thing when he is, where's the pressure button at here? Under pressure with him is, I think, where it changes a little bit. This stuck out to me. If you give me a moment here, Caleb Williams, where he's 43.3% passing when pressured, completion percentage overall. And his EPA at that point is, where is it here? I'm losing my plum track. I got so many buttons pushed.
And obviously some of these are going to be lower. I don't know what that completion is when pressured compared to other quarterbacks. Every quarterback has a dipped completion percentage whenever they are pressured. But it seems like he's responding to the blitz overall pretty well.
He is. But when pressured in general, he's not as good. So when you're throwing out the specifics of blitz versus just pressure, he is a much worse quarterback passing when pressured.
But aren't they all?
But yeah, but I mean, he's in the bottom 15 of the, he's in the bottom 10 of the league, I think, when it comes to EPA per drop back here. So you're talking about really two different animals when you're talking about blitz and pressuring. So to go back to your question, I'm not sure I blitz him as much, but you better find a ways to get pressure on him without blitzing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. So that'll be, I think, the real cat and mouse game to take away from the Bears offense is how much do you blitz him? And of course, can you pressure him and can you contain him whenever he does get pressure? Because whenever he feels pressure, he's spinning out, he's avoiding, would-be sacks, and he's extending the play in a way that only a couple quarterbacks can.
All right. Within those under pressure situations, though, it's showing that 40% of those times he was blitzed.
Okay. Yeah, again, I don't know what these numbers are relative to others in the NFL, but as you said, if you're going to blitz, you better get home.
Right. And look, you better, I'm sure you're going to be running some man in this situation, but because of his mobility and his ability to get out of the pocket here, you better have some eyes on him.
Some other things to note here: DeAndre Swift is a really underrated running back, but also the number 2 there. I wouldn't call him the backup. The number 2 Monangai is a good back. That Bengals game you talked about, he ran for $176 in that Bengals game. He stepped in and stepped up, so he's a guy that is able to produce. And then watch DJ Moore, kind of a gadget guy, a receiver in depth chart, but he can line up everywhere he lines up in the backfield. Took a 3rd and 4 toss, I think, a week or two ago for first down or close to it. It's got 13 rushes this year, and so he was the guy part of that deal for the number 1 overall pick. It was kind of the last add-on they had to give up that number 1 overall selection. And so just alert DJ Moore. He is number 2, I believe. Let me just double check that. DJ Moore's number 2. Watch for heel lines because he'll be all over the place.
Oh, yeah, and Odunze's a pretty good wide receiver as well, too, and they're starting to get Luther Burden up to, and wasn't Luther the one that we, that didn't have all that much downfield production, but in short areas and screens and so good after the catch, especially when he gets the ball closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he was a little bit like DJ Moore, a little more space, RPO kind of a guy. They had Brady Cook this past year in college, and Cook was having a tough year playing hurt. And so Burden had that really good year 2 years ago. People thought, okay, this might be the number 1 receiver whenever he comes out, and then regressed, maybe had some injuries too. But yeah, he's certainly a guy that works well in space.
All right. So, and then once again, they're not using Cole Kmet all that. How many receptions does a guy like Cole Kmet have right now? 14 or something? 18?
He's got 16 this year for 192, but Loveland has really come on. Their first-round rookie, their first-round pick for a reason, and he's playing great ball these last 3 games.
Yeah, so don't get lulled to sleep by Loveland in his production because they really got a quality guy and paid him quite, along the lines of what Pat Freiermuth got paid there a couple of years ago. Because remember, he was a contract that we kind of watching for comparison for Pat Freiermuth there. This is a guy that can still get it done in a passing game as well too. So they've got 2 tight ends in Kmet and Loveland when both those guys are on the field together, and you'll see that. Probably about 30% of the time, I think at least on Sunday against the Steelers, both those guys can function in both the running game and the pass game.
And even some 13 personnel with Durham Smythe out there. So they've increased that usage. They've used those guys in the backfield some. They've done some interesting split zone variations because usually teams that run split zone, they have the Y off and he'll come across the formation and cut the backside play. But whenever you're Y off, it's kind of often a telltale sign which way you're going to go, which is kind of a question. Are you booting or are you going to hand it off? And so they'll have these backs either in the backfield or kind of return motion and kind of double back and cut the backside player. So there's a good split zone variation to make it less obvious. That's the a lot of teams have run, not just Chicago, but they've kind of tried to add some wrinkles to their zone run game to make it a little less predictable.
Yeah, and they don't have quote unquote, I don't think a true fullback there, but occasionally you'll see Kmet or I think Smythe. And maybe even occasionally, I don't know if I saw Loveland, but you'll see them line up, like you said, in the backfield.
Yeah, so a lot to handle in the trick plays, of course. Bag of tricks here for the Bears at home. We'll see what's in store for Pittsburgh. Any other thoughts on the offense?
You got to limit the chunk plays. You just if you limit the 10-yard runs and the 20-yard explosive plays, get them in third and long type situations. That's going to be the difference in the game because they've had drops in the receiving core. Some plays that Kaleb, I think, has done a good job of getting the ball to some of these guys. They've dropped some passes and let them down that would have even led to some more explosive plays in here. But what scares me, I think, the most overall is on early downs and shutting down a guy like Swift because they will lean heavily on the run game to try to set the tone and then to build the play action off of that, which allows for Kaleb to, and I think he's doing a good job of just presenting the football and showing the play action and getting those linebackers to kind of suck up. That's one thing that kind of stuck out to me in watching him in the 3 games that I watched on him is how they are able to use that play action to kind of manipulate things for him to be able to hold the football as long as he does and for him to be able to push the football down the field. Like I said, almost 1.5 yards further than what he did his rookie season. And he's doing a good job of not getting the ball intercepted and putting it in harm's way overall here. So you got to get takeaways from this offense some way, somehow. This is an offense that hasn't turned the football a lot over this year.
I think you made a good point about the completion percentage and why it looks so low and regressed from last year's sub 60. But I'm looking at next gen stats and their expected completion percentage, which takes into consideration drops and passes that quote unquote should have been caught. Williams is at 67.2%, which is sixth or seventh in the NFL. He has the biggest gap between actual completion percentage and what is expected at 7.5, meaning his completion percentage should be 7.5 points higher than it actually is. He's being hurt the worst. And so that kind of tells you he's been pretty accurate. Just other guys have not always followed through in completing the catch.
Yeah, and I think he's up there in top 5 or so in the NFL as far as attempts of 20 yards or more down the field. So we're going to see him attempt to push the football down the field.
But there is that 3.29 time to throw, which is by far the NFL's longest and comes from a lot of the out of structure moments. And so can you get some sacks, some pressure, back this offense up, keep them off schedule, out of rhythm? That'll be the key.
Yep.
All right, flipping over to the defense, veteran DC and Dennis Allen, who I think will be ready for whoever Pittsburgh starts at quarterback, even though it does look like it'll be Aaron Rodgers. But where's the weak point? Where can Pittsburgh take advantage of and get some yards?
They got to run the football. Them against the run. If the Steelers can't run the football, and if they get themselves in third and long situations, is going to be, I think, the difference in this game. This is a Bears defense that has been run on quite effectively this year. They're giving up 133.3 yards a game on the ground. That's 25th in the NFL. They're giving up 5.19 yards per rush. That's 29th in the NFL overall. So this is and look, they're not that much better against the pass either. They can be both run and thrown on, but it starts obviously with this Steelers offense and how they're engineered, and a guy like Jaylen Warren and leaning into the pedigree on that offensive line. It plays into, especially if Aaron Rodgers plays this week, you're not going to want him dropping back 50 times in this game, or 40 times if you can avoid it, and all, and him taking a bunch of extra hits there. The Steelers should be expected to run on this defense. It'll be disappointing if they don't. When they do throw, hopefully you're in second and manageable and third and manageable situations. If you get yourself in third down situations, though, that's where this Bears defense has been really its most impressive. And I pointed out to Adam as well, too, and I posted this on Twitter yesterday as well. They are 33.7% on third down, just as in general as a team. That's second best in the NFL overall to Denver, who leads the league in third down percentage. But when you get in third and I think it was 6 or 7 or longer, that's when it really, really changes. They're like just under 16% conversion rate. So, and this obviously, as we've talked about, even though there was some positives coming out of the Bengals game, but what the Steelers were able to do in third and longer situations, being able to convert, that was against the Bengals defense that's hard to use as a litmus test overall. This is a defense that's not afraid to send, I think, numbers on third down situations as well, too. Their pass rush generally overall is not great with those guys up front, but they do have ways of kind of manufacturing pressure, guys coming off the edge and all like that, with some designed blitzes and all. So the big thing here is that I'm looking for the Steelers offense to have success is they should be expected to run the football well. And look, if you don't have Edmonds in there, who we talked about, that's going to, even if he plays, he's probably not going to be 100% overall. You can run both inside and outside against this defense.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Dave. You got to run the ball. I mean, that's a given any week, but given the Bears' personality that they want to be in that 4-2-5 nickel, assuming that Gardner Johnson retains that role, even if guys like Jaylen Johnson come back, and so they're not going to really be in that base 4-3 with the extra linebacker in there. You got to go 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and see if you can run against it. And you must run against that. And now Gardner Johnson's done a good job. He's a pretty physical guy. There's a reason why they're comfortable staying in those nickel packages, but you got to be able to really kind of make them pay for not responding to your personnel and get real big and try to run the ball. Now, I think they do a good job defending power and gap schemes. I would use a little more duo, a little more inside zone, look for the backside cut on those reads, but you got to run the ball against that nickel front.
Absolutely. And look, they are last in the NFL on offenses running the offense's left guard directionally. 6.63 yards per carry, ranked last in the NFL directionally off left guard. If you want to run right guard, fine. 34 carries, 5.53 yards per carry on runs that way. 27th rated defense when it comes directionally there. They're pretty stout up the middle on up the middle runs. They're ranked 11th in the NFL, 3.62 yards per carry. So the meat potatoes of where you want to aim on this is left guard, right guard. Specifically, like you said, they do pretty good job, I think, against gap stuff. But this should play right into Arthur Smith's wheelhouse with some of that mid zone that he likes to, with a lot of that mid zone that he likes to run, right? And with Jaylen Warren. So your middle three in Sayamalo, Zach Frazier, and Mason McCormick, running that duo, running that inside zone, running that split zone that the Steelers lean heavy into. It's going to be disappointing if they don't have success up, pretty much up the middle in general, but specifically to both guard spots.
When you do run that zone scheme, and if Tremaine Edmonds does play, you got to get a hat on him, even if he's 80%. This dude's a really unique kind of guy. He's big, he's athletic, he flows well. He's in his 8th NFL season, Dave. He's 27 years old. He came out like 20 years old, one of the youngest prospects in recent memory. I think only was it a Koye that was like a 19-year-old, like a younger rookie than Tremaine Edmonds. So it's a lot of experience, still a pretty young guy, prime of his career, hyper athlete. And he didn't have great immediate success when Cleveland signed him a couple years ago, but I think he's kind of really coming into his own now and having a great season, as Adam talked about earlier. So get a hat on him. Can't let him run free. But yeah, I think the zone run scheme, some of the duo scheme is probably the way to go. But no matter how you run it, no matter where you run it, you must run it effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously hope to be able to build some play action off of that. And we don't, I don't think we're going to see a lot of shots down the field. Look, our old buddy, not old buddy, but a guy that you and I thought a lot of coming out of college, Kevin Byard is doing a fantastic job. And you and I, talked about him several times when the Steelers have played him as he's bounced across the NFL here. This guy's really ball hawking. He's really got a good feel in that secondary overall. This is a guy that's not fooled very easily there. So you got to know kind of where he's at, when he's playing center field there, because he's such a smart player and he's taken the football away a lot for them this season. So you got to be careful in the few situations that you do decide. And once again, I'm not expecting a lot in this game, but you got to be careful when pushing the football down the field against him specifically.
Man, Dave, Kevin Byard is one of my favorite non-Steelers in the NFL. I remember talking to him. It was I think the first time I ever went to the Senior Bowl, or the second year. He was an unknown from Middle Tennessee State, a combine snub. I remember asking him, like, dude, you're balling out. He had a great game against Alabama in college. Like, why are you not going Indy? And he just shrugged his shoulders, and obviously not his decision, but he has been a great player. I don't know why Tennessee dumped him. He leads the NFL in interceptions this year with 5. He's second among active players with 34 interceptions, only behind Harrison Smith's 37. This has been a ball hawk since the day he broke into the NFL and really dating back to college. And so he's playing really good football for them. And I really like what the coverage schemes that Dennis Allen runs. It's a lot of match coverage. You get a lot of variation, some 2 high, some cover 2. They do those kind of bluff sim pressure looks, and then we'll drop out of it like what a Brian Flores in Minnesota will do. So Pittsburgh has struggled against those teams that run match coverage. The Chargers earlier this year, the Eagles against Fangio in the past. And so I think Pittsburgh has to be able to overcome those things because they're facing a defense that's pretty multiple, pretty layered, and pretty nuanced.
I like what they don't run a lot of man stuff overall, but they'll run man cover 2. And, as far as their zone stuff, they lean heavily into just flat out cover 2. So are you able to differentiate when they run the 2 high situations? Are you able to differentiate whether it is man or whether it is zone? So they do a good job of mixing that up. And I think that has led to some confusion, and it's helped them pick off some passes in the secondary as well too. But once again, this isn't a defense that does a great job without blitzing or pressuring. And I think you just got to be mindful of, and that's why it's going to be helpful to have a guy like Aaron Rodgers in there, is be able to kind of decipher some of these coverages, differences between cover two man and cover two, just, a zone and all like that. But they're predominantly a zone defense that tries to live that way. They try to stop the run with that great luck with those guys like Edmonds down. They want to get you in those third and long situations because they just flat simply get off the field in those situations.
They do a good job lying to offenses. That's why I titled the scouting report "The Liars of the Midway" as opposed to "The Monsters of the Midway," because you can motion and they'll follow you, and so you're getting what you think is a man clue, and they'll play zone. And that's, a lot of teams do that. They're not the only ones, but they do it probably better and more often than most. So you're never quite sure if you're getting man or zone until the ball is snapped. And again, you're getting a lot of match coverage as well. So they're going to man up based on your route combinations. It won't be you take this guy, you take this guy. We're going to, first in, first out rules. And depending on what the route tree looks like, they're going to match up accordingly. So that'll be a challenge for Pittsburgh. Their defensive backs have been just really productive this year, Dave. Combined, they have 11 interceptions, 9 quarterback hits, 5 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. So they're getting a ton of splash from the secondary, whether that's Byard picking off passes or Gardner Johnson getting sacks. He's got 3 sacks in 3 games and a forced fumble, so he's been an immediate impact kind of a guy. But where's the weakness? They're boom bust. They've allowed 38 completions at 20-plus yards. That's the same number they've allowed of 10-plus runs. That's, I think, tied for the most in the NFL through the air. So can Pittsburgh find ways to get big plays? The Bears are certainly feast famine. They got a ton of takeaways. The pressure rate's not great, and they give up a lot of plays in the back end.
Yeah, and once again, you do have guys up there on the front four that Montez Sweat leads them in sacks with 5.5. Gervon Dexter, a guy, he came out of Florida, I think, that we studied a little bit there. Kind of wondered if the Steelers would have interest in him. His second on the team with 4 sacks, as you mentioned. Gardner Johnson there. For them to have the communication and be able to function with some of these pieces come in, and obviously not having, look, you add Jaylen Johnson to that thing, even if he doesn't play a lot of snaps, that's a big upgrade for that defense if they're able to get him on the field for, even 50% of the snaps in this game, because obviously they've been playing without him for, week 2, week 3, something like that.
Yeah, Adam said I think week 2 is when Johnson went down. Remember, Pittsburgh had some interest in him. There was some trade rumors about him when he hit the market, and felt like Johnson was going to go leave and depart. He ended up re-upping, and if he comes back, that's going to be obviously big for them. But again, it goes back to running the football and staying on schedule, taking care of the football, because the Bears have really done a great job with their takeaways.
Right. Our old buddy Andrew Billings filters in there on defense.
just thinking about that. Remember with all that buzz, would he be a first-round pick? And we thought that was one of my biggest kind of draft misses, thinking this guy's going to be a first-rounder and end up going in the 4th round. But yeah, he's still in the NFL with Chicago.
And they still got old-timer Grady Jarrett over there making some plays as well, too. So, they've got some names over there overall, but they don't do a good job of pressuring overall.
Yeah, they really don't. That's why they tried to make a trade at the deadline for Tryon Shoyinka from Cleveland, but his impact has been really minimal so far. They've not really gotten the elite pressure from Sweat like Adam talked about. They've had some injuries too, and so they've not done a great job. So Pittsburgh has to certainly win the trenches. If they could do that, that's a big step forward.
Look, run the football effectively, stay out of 3rd and long situations. That's going to be a key to this game. And then obviously, because of the takeaway differential here and how good the Bears have been in net differential, it feels like you got to win the turnover battle here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, any other final thoughts here? Special teams, I didn't get a chance to really dive into their special teams. They had some kicker shuffling there, it feels like. Nothing too big in the return game. Former Raven, Devin Duvernay back there handling punts for them.
Yeah, Duvernay's the one that you forget about him, and he pops up and he'll return something for either 50 or 60 yards or a touchdown. So he's obviously done it long enough now that he's accomplished in that situation or that role with them.
All right, Dave, any other final thoughts? If not, we can start getting ready to make our picks for week number 12.
All right, we can do that. And let's see, several teams already. I'm, of course, talking about MyBookie.ag, who's been a longtime sponsor of the Terrible Podcast, specifically our Friday shows, where Alex and I attempt to pick all the games across the NFL against the spread using MyBookie.ag. .ag lines on top of it. And man, already this year teams have hung 40 or more on the scoreboard this year, and the overs seem to be printing right and left. MyBookie.ag is where all of our guys are cashing in on every one of them. Game lines, player props, same game parlays, whatever you're riding with, MyBookie.ag has it, and they have you covered there. New players, once again, can use our promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE to get started with MyBookie with their bet back bonus. And what does that mean? That means your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. And what does that mean? It means if it misses, you use your bet back token, keeps you in the game so you can reload and fire another shot. Whether you're building your bankroll or looking to hit the lotto that they have with the money back bag feature on mybookie.ag, they have you covered. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. They have lines for obviously pro football, college basketball, NBA, hockey, you name it, they've got you covered there. And make sure you use promo code TERRIBLE at sign up to take advantage of their bet back bonus program there. So with that, we'll get into this week's picks. We are both 0-1. What an entertaining game that was Thursday night between the Texans and the Buffalo Bills. The Texans came up on top, even though Buffalo was driving late. They could not punch it in. That Texas defense, I underestimated. I knew they were good, but I thought the Bills' offense would be better than what they were. Man, they sacked Josh Allen 7 times, I think it was, in that game.
Wow.
And Will, what's his name? Will
Anderson.
Yeah, Will Anderson. Just boy, what a tremendous pass rusher he is. The bend, the ankle flexion with him, just incredible. So that I noted this last night while watching that game. Man, I know the Texans are still outside of the playoff picture right now, but they still got to play the Colts twice, I think, with one of them coming up here. The Texans are a sneaky team. They've been winning with Davis Mills at quarterback and all. They should get C.J. Stroud back. This Texans team could be a sneaky team if they get into the playoffs here. But they did win. You and I both had the Bills laying 4.5 points in this, so we are both 0-1 heading into the rest of the week's action, which begins with the New York Jets playing the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. The Ravens are 13.5 point home favorites against the Jets, who are starting Tyrod Taylor at quarterback over Justin Fields. What say you about the Ravens in that 13.5 point line?
Give me the Jets to cover because of Taylor starting a little more sustainable offensive play in a pass game. And I just got to say, I know that Stroud's been out. Mills won last night, but that combination of the Texans drafting Stroud and then trading right back up to get Will Anderson, what a great combination. That has been one of the best draft day moves we've seen in a quite some time to get an offensive pillar and a defensive pillar. So great job by Houston. Certainly a team you don't want to play in the playoffs, but give me the Jets to cover.
I'll take the Ravens to cover that big number. That defense is coming around. They can do a lot of things offensively. I kind of wonder if the Jets, with that diminished defensive line now, will be able to handle Derrick Henry. And also, I'll lay the 13.5 there. How about the big game for the Bengals? Who's going to start at quarterback for the Bengals? A lot of wondering about if Joe Burrow is going to end up starting and making it back this week. Here, obviously playing a Patriots offense that's or a Patriots team that's been on a roll as of late, and the Bengals really need this one. They really can't afford to lose, but maybe one more, if that, the rest of the way. Here, Patriots on the road in Cincinnati. The Patriots are 6-point road favorites, and we'll see what happens with Burrow here.
Burrow's going to play. There's no way he sits. He's full. Their season's on the line. As good as Flacco's performed, I'd be floored if Burrow does not suit up this week.
Jamar Chase ain't suiting up, though.
He is not, and certainly know why he isn't. For those who watched the game last weekend, I will take Bengals defense is just so bad, man. Give me the Patriots.
I'm gonna factor in the Burrow factor here. I think the Patriots win this. I think the Bengals keep it close. I'll take the 6 points with the Bengals there. Colts play the Chiefs in KC, I believe. This should be a good one. Chiefs laying 3 at home against the Colts.
Ooh, yeah, the Chiefs. Talk about a must-win for the Chiefs. Last time we talked about that for KC's been a minute. It's kind of a who is both of these teams. Are the Colts the Colts? Can the Chiefs, rise back up? Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't know which way to go on this. I'm leaning Chiefs at home as well, too. I think they'll be able to get after Daniel Jones in this one. Give me the Chiefs lay the 3 points at home here. How about the Vikings on the road against the Green Bay Packers? Packers are laying 6.5. Going to be interesting. I'm watching what happens with Josh Jacobs. He's banged up this week here. Packers laying 6.5 at home against Minnesota per mybookie.ag.
Now he's me in divisional games. I'm really not a buyer in the Vikings. McCarthy really seems like a wreck out there. Give me the Vikings to cover because it's divisional, but I think I'm going to regret my decision here.
Yeah, I think Micah Parsons has a hell of a damn game in this one. Probably 3-4 sacks, maybe even in this one. Give me the Packers lay that big number 6.5 at home. How about the Seahawks on the road against the Tennessee Titans? Seahawks tough game that last week with all the turnovers and all. Who was it to? The Rams, I think. Seahawks laying 13 on the road against Tennessee.
And yet still almost won that game, which kind of, I think, in some ways it's a positive for Seattle to play so poorly and still almost beat a really quality opponent. Missed field goal at the very end of that game. Tennessee, man, just real bad out there. Give me Seattle.
Give me Seattle lay to 13 with you. How about the Giants on the road against the Lions? The Lions 10.5 against the G-Men.
Who they just ruled out Jackson Dart. As you were saying that, I was looking at my phone. Jackson Dart officially will not play due to a concussion, so I assume it'll be Jameis Winston ball again. He's fun. He made some plays, but the turnovers are always a risk for him. Give me the Lions.
Give me the Lions later 10.5. I'm with you here. All right. Cleveland on the road against the Raiders. This is interesting because Shedeur Sanders is going to make the start here. This is a Raiders team that's been a disaster as well, too. Obviously, the Browns have a great defense, so they're going to be able to get after the Vegas quarterback, Geno Smith here. Raiders are favored by 4 points at home against the Browns.
Yeah, this one's tough. I mean, Shedeur, we'll see. He's going to probably take some sacks, face Max Crosby especially. I assume they're going to lean on the run game a ton. The Browns have that great defense. This one, I really don't know which way to go in this one. My gut says the Browns. I'll take the Browns.
I'll boil this down to Max versus Shedeur Sanders. I think Max wins this one. I'll take the Raiders lay to 4 points at home. I think Shedeur ends up throwing a couple interceptions in this one. Jaguars on the road against the Arizona Cardinals, a beat-up Arizona Cardinals team. Jaguars really responded nicely against the Chargers this past week. The Jaguars go on the road laying 2.5 points in this one, Alex.
Yeah, did anyone talk about that? The Jaguars just blowing the doors off of the Chargers in this game or last week. So, yeah, kudos to them. Give me the Jags.
Give me the Jags laying at 2.5 on the road. I'm with you. How about the Eagles against the Cowboys? The Cowboys redid that defense with a couple of additions and all. And even though their two wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, were out at Red Rock Casino having some fun and were benched for the first series or whatnot there. They came alive in that last game there. Cowboys really need to win this one. The Eagles been struggling on offense. The Eagles playing good defense. Eagles 3-point road favorites against the Cowboys.
And CeeDee Lamb can hold his liquor. He wants you all to know that. Just what a wacky story that is. I'm sorry, is this one in Dallas or in Philly?
It's in Dallas.
Let's see. Give me... Man, this one's tough, Dave. Give me Dallas.
Yeah, that defense. I don't know which way to go.
I really don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Flip a coin.
Yeah. You know what? I'll go opposite with you. I'll take the Eagles and lay the 3 points without a lot of confidence there. How about the Falcons on the road against the Saints? Falcons are turning to Kirk Cousins now due to the injury to Michael Penix Jr. The Saints are going on with Tyler Shuck at quarterback there. Sounds like the Saints are going to be waiving Brandon Cooks by the weekend after redoing his contract to free him up there. The Saints are 2-point home favorites against the Falcons here.
I think Drake London's out for this game, too, so I have no idea what this offense is going to run to besides Bijan. I don't know. 2 points. Vegas knows something here. Give me the Saints.
I'll go the other way. I like Bijan to run all over him here. I'll take the +2. I think the Falcons win this outright. How about the Buccaneers? This should be a good game. On the road, I think this is a Sunday night game against the Rams. The Rams, you want to talk about mix and match in personnel and offense and the things that they're able to do due to injuries over there really has been impressive. The Rams are laying 7 points against Baker Mayfield and company here.
Yeah, it's a great point by you. Remember, McVay used to be 11 personnel 95% of the time, and now he's running 12, 13 personnel, just responding to injuries and what the team needs, and that's the mark of a really good coach, and obviously McVay is one. Too big of a line, though. Give me Tampa to at least cover.
I think the Rams cover this. I think McVay will outsmart that Todd Bowles defense there. I'll lay the 7 points at home there. Panthers on the road against the 49ers. This is an interesting one. Which Panthers team is going to show up here? 49ers have Brock Purdy back, getting some of these players back on offense healthy. Christian McCaffrey having a fantastic season. Christian McCaffrey playing his former team. Side story on this, 49ers laying 7 points at home against the Panthers here.
Yeah, give me the Niners, man. It'd be 7-4 with all the crap they've gone through, all the injuries, still be in this NFC West fight. Super impressive. The Panthers have had their moments, young, big franchise record-setting game last week, but give me the Niners.
Give me the Niners as well to lay the 7 points there. And I believe that was the Monday night game. So that circles us back to the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Chicago Bears. This has gone from like 2.5 to 3 and bouncing back and forth between that with the Bears favored at home. Right now, my bookie has it as the Bears -2.5 at home against a Pittsburgh team that once again has not won in Chicago since, what did I say, 95?
95. That history only mean they've only played 2 other times since then, so the stats it's interesting. We love our stats of the weird, but it only means so much, and of course history is just that. But played unfamiliar opponents, really good offensive scheme. I didn't make my game-by-game predictions before the season began, but I had in my head if I was going to put this one as a loss because of Ben Johnson, his scheme, and the way he coaches that offense. Yeah, the Bears have played well. The Steelers are certainly ascending. But I think the 2 issues with Chicago is because of that creative, schematic offense coupled with that match coverage defense, 2 things I think Pittsburgh has not done great against over the years, especially defensively. I'm going to go Chicago in this one, Dave, and people may cheer this because that probably means Pittsburgh will win based on my track record, but short and sweet score here for you, 26-20 Bears over Steelers.
All right, you most concerned about turnovers in this one or what?
A little bit of that, but like I said, offensively, all the wrinkles the Bears offense throws at you, I think Pittsburgh may struggle with. And then especially with that pass game, can Pittsburgh be able to combat some of the Dennis Allen coverages? Like I mentioned before, Aaron Rodgers is one of his worst games ever, came against Dennis Allen back in 21 when Allen was in New Orleans. It was a 38-3, just complete dog walking. So yeah, those 2 factors really kind of dictate my decision on this one.
I worry about a lot of things, like you said in this one here. Ben Johnson and his creativity, the fact that they don't turn the football over, they take the ball away on defense somehow, some way. They're so damn good on third down, and I'm not going to be blinded by what the Steelers did on third down against the Bengals. I worry about Aaron Rodgers not playing up to Aaron Rodgers' par because of maybe him thinking too much about that injury, not pushing the football down the field enough, maybe taking one too many risks down the field. And then look, first and foremost, that running game. That running game is no joke with what the Bears do. It's a hard one to stop. They get into a lot of second and manageable distances, third and manageable distances, and that scares the crap out of me. And I worry about the Steelers being just able to get the defense off the field, and I worry about the Steelers offense being able to run plays, enough plays on this one against, I'm with you on this one here. I think the Bears do just enough to win this. I have this 27-24 Chicago. So if we're going to be wrong, together on this one does scare me primarily because of the Bears' ability to run the football and because of them not turning the football over and such the big differential there. And then once again, how they play on third down just does not play well into what the Steelers do offensively on third down. And then you add in just not 100% Aaron Rodgers. I worry about Jaylen Warren and that ankle. How close to 100% will he be? Will he factor into that? And if the Steelers can't run the ball in this game, it's going to make for a long day. So let the hate. We're going to get a lot of pushback on this, and hopefully the Steelers prove us wrong. But I'm with you. I had the Steelers losing this 27-24.
My buddy Christian last night said he predicts Pittsburgh to win big. So if the Steelers win, I will sub him in for all of these picks because he might probably be a whole lot better than me. But we'll see. My confidence is not super high. Let's play our scenarios though. If Pittsburgh wins this game, if we're both wrong here, my buddy's right. Why does Pittsburgh win this game? What are we talking about on Monday?
Winning the turnover battle, absolutely here. In other words, getting the ball out from Kaleb, probably knocking it out while he scrambles, sack fumbles. He just doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. I'm not going to, and then the explosive play category, you've got to, because they will chunk you up. You can't get fooled by any of these explosive plays. And then, look, you just got to stop the run. If we're talking about a Steelers team on Monday that did a fantastic job, not only with DeAndre Swift, but Caleb Williams in running the football, limiting those 10-plus yard run plays, that's going to go a long way in helping get the defense off the field. So the Steelers win by winning the turnover battle 2-0 or greater. I just don't think you can turn the football over at all in this game here if you're the Steelers. And I know that might be tough in this one here, but that and staying out of those third and long situations overall, because I just don't think the Steelers are built to overcome that against a Bears defense that's been so damn good on third down and long in particular.
Pittsburgh wins this game. They ran the ball better than they have in any game this season, which is
Maybe
certainly
they run
something
40
they can
runs.
do. Maybe they do. They certainly could do it, I think, based on the matchups and based on Chicago's struggles. But if they win this game, it'll be because of that and because they put Caleb Williams in a blender with the pressure and the sacks and turnovers. I think someone's going to be in a blender in this game. Either Pittsburgh's defense can't match the scheme of Chicago, or Pittsburgh's pass rush and talent wins out and makes life really tough on Williams all day long. One of those two things will happen. Whichever happens determines who wins this game.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Caleb Williams having a long day at Soldier Field if we're talking about a Steelers win, I think.
Yeah, or a Steelers long day if Williams is able to get the upper hand. So I think that's how Pittsburgh obviously loses this game, where the offense or the defense just can't match beat for beat with the Bears scheme. They run a trick play or two, and then the pass game just can't get going. I think the run game will have success regardless in this game, but can the pass game take advantage of the Bears defense that has a lot of big plays? Pittsburgh's pass game has obviously had very few explosive plays this season. I'm so skeptical that they can manufacture those, but if they can't, it'll be that much harder to win this game.
I mean, look, the Steelers obviously, this should be a tight game. I don't think either team's going to run away from each other. I think it'll be a little bit more higher scoring than I think it goes. What did I say? 27-24. So that's what, 51.
Is that what you said? 27-24?
Yeah, 27-24. The over-under on this is 45.5. So I think this final score goes over too.
Yeah, I'm at 46, so I'm right there. What is the over-under for that Browns-Raiders game? I'm just curious. I'm sure that's pretty low.
MyBookie.ag, 36.
Yeah, pretty low there. So just curious. But yeah, I think, I don't know. This thing could go a lot of different ways. I could see Pittsburgh winning big. I could see Chicago winning big. I really don't have a great feel. I think this game will be, I don't know. This thing could go a bunch of different ways because I think either Pittsburgh's defense can overwhelm or get overwhelmed just as easily.
All right. Want to get to some emails here?
Yeah, I know we're going long, so just get to a couple emails, but let's do that and close out today's show.
All right, Caleb Zaborski, good morning from Fort Myers. With Duggar and Herberg on this team for now, what do you guys think should happen moving forward? Elliott will be back eventually, he says, with Highsmith showing he is not reliable starter due to his injuries. It seems that Tomlin has some big decisions towards the end of the year and into the offseason. I don't want to get into the offseason portion of this. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it. And I don't know if I know a lot of people are talking about Deshaun Elliott be back eventually. Is that more late into the season type stuff? Do you think if he is back?
That was the media reporting that if he did come back, it would be very late in the season, if at all. So we'll kind of take it week by week, but I don't think that decision's going to come for still at least another month, if not longer.
It would be, as Mike Tomlin said recently, it'd be a good problem to have to try to fit Elliott back into this thing. And look, you hope that you continue to have the problem of Duggar and Jalen Ramsey playing so well on the back end. I think it all depends on how this continues to go. And look, Elliott, obviously will have missed a chunk of games. Duggar's a very, very smart player. They're doing a lot of different things in the back end, and might they want to stick mostly with Duggar and Ramsey once Elliott does get healthy, or just to kind of ease him back in? Elliott will have a role in this thing, whether or not it's a big, close to what it was prior to him getting injured will depend on how Duggar and Ramsey are playing together.
I mean, when Elliott comes back and is cleared, he's going to be the starting strong safety. He's been a great strong safety. Duggar's played well, but he's not usurping Elliott's spot. Now, the question is, what role can Duggar have whenever Elliott does come back? If he does come back, you probably do some big nickel stuff there when you face Baltimore Week 18, for example. If Elliott's back for that game, you might do some things like that to match up on the big tight ends of Andrews and Likely, some wrinkles, some packages like that. But I think when Elliott is healthy, he's got the spot. It's not his to be lost.
All right. Highsmith, a lot of talk about his injuries of late, and we'll see if he's able to make it back from the pec this week here. Look, when Highsmith's been healthy, he's been playing well, but in fact, him and Herbig are right up there as far as pressures and quality pressures and pressure impact and all. And look, it's the drop off with Herbig as of late in games that Highsmith has missed has not been that noticeable. And obviously, you're getting more games with Sawyer. Once again, this will be a good problem to have. The hope is that you can get enough situations where you have Watt, Herbig, and Highsmith all on the field together, right?
Sure, I think Highsmith gets too much hate. He's a really good player. I mean, I get Herbig is the better player if you had to pick pound for pound, but you can work all these guys, and it's not Highsmith's fault that Herbig doesn't play more. That's a team, type of decision. The knock on Highsmith, I think, if there is really a substantial one, is the health. Missed 6 games last year and missed 3 games this year. Could miss a 4th. Just had a lot of soft tissue injuries, a lot of groin injuries, which you worry about him as he gets closer to 30, about how that's going to hold up over time. So, but I'll be very happy if he's able to play and come back.
Right. Good problem to have. You get and keep all those guys healthy at the outside linebacker position.
You need the rotation this week because you're chasing Caleb Williams around and defending all the scores on a pass game. You need guys who can run, and you're going to probably need a sub a lot in this one to stay fresh.
All right, Brett Nile from San Angelo, Texas in here. Hey, Dave and Alex, have a couple of tight end questions for you. Now that we know that Darnell Washington is 311 pounds, my question is, why do we have to have Spencer Anderson as a tackle eligible for the run game to work at 311 pounds? Isn't Washington already essentially a tackle eligible? Seems like you should be able to run the ball with Washington and another tight end. Is there a schematic reason you can see that you essentially need 2 extra tackles? Well, first and foremost there, who would you rather have out there as a second tight end? Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, or Spencer Anderson? Especially if you're going to try to run the football there. I think just because of the success that this unit has had with the jumbo tackle or extra tackle situation with Spencer Anderson has been kind of the proof in the pudding there, and you're still able to throw out of that as occasion as well too. So his question is why can't you just get by with running 12, say 12 personnel with let's say Washington and Freiermuth?
I mean, more is better. You can put big on big and have that unique wrinkle of having the 2 300-plus pounders in Washington and Anderson. It's working. I mean, look at the results. I'm not mad about that. I want to stick with it. So it's something a lot of teams can't do, not something a lot of teams see or practice against. And so I'm all for going big on big. It's kind of a good personality to have. So it's worked, and it is good to get the official weight. We should have mentioned that earlier on Darnell Washington, 311. We knew he was no 264 or whatever he was listed at on the site. We knew it was 3 bills, and they've kind of teased that in the past. And so, that is. I'm really happy that Darnell was kind of getting his flowers and getting some national attention. He got the Angry Run scepter. So that's a guy that's worked hard, done a lot of the dirty work, blocking, not been super involved in the offense his first 2 years, and is kind of getting his shine now, which is really just on a personal level fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's handling it all well as well too. It's good to see him take the full picture with the tight end room with the scepter and all and all that we saw posted.
He's a mature dude. I mean, he's got 3 kids. He's a
grown ass man.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a really mature guy for being still, what, I don't know, 25 years old, and been super humble, and just really happy for him to have this success.
And look, this sets up for him to have potentially you could see him having a good game against the Bears, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be your leading snap guy at tight end and be more and more involved, I'm sure, and it's gonna probably lead to a good payday this offseason.
All right, second question he has, does it seem like it's going to be Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith going forward, not both? Yeah, we kind of hit on that. I know I think we hit on that on a live stream and really on I think
The
maybe
Wednesday
the
show we did.
Wednesday show as well too. You had a stat this morning on Jonnu, right?
Yeah, I'll read it off, which how much of this is on coaching, how much of this is on Jonnu, we can deliberate some other time, but he's logged 133 snaps his last 4 games. I think it's like 81 or 89 routes. He has 1 first down. I mean, you're just not getting anything out of this guy. And, Freiermuth has not been tremendously more productive, but he has been more productive and more yak with him and more downfield plays. So I don't know what Jonnu Smith's role is. The snap count's still pretty high. I can't imagine both will be back, and it's hard to think they'll dump Pat Freiermuth after
Right.
this year. I think Jonnu Smith is certainly the much more likely name to be released.
I agree. Last question.
What's his dead money? What's his dead money if you cut Jonnu Smith? Is there really they extended him out for a year? What does that dead money cap situation look like?
Let me find
It's nothing
out. Pull up
terrible,
my
I don't think.
Spreadsheet here.
Because I know you have the numbers.
3.872 million.
Okay. What would it be on Freiermuth, hypothetically? It's got to be more.
Oh,
because he's got more years left. Bigger contract.
Let me pull that up real quick.
It's got to be, I don't even know, 10, 12.
Let's see, 6.3 million, believe it or not.
Okay.
Does he have anything guaranteed next year? No. So, I mean, but the cap savings overall, let's see, and look, you got an off-season roster bonus, so you would have to probably make a decision on him by March 15th anyway to save an additional 1.5 million there. So, technically, if you wanted to move away from him, you could. $6.3 million in dead money. Specifically, you would save a tad bit of cap space in 2026 if you cut him before that roster bonus is due in March. But they're not going to do that.
No, when you can just cut Jonnu instead, it makes a whole lot more sense financially and production and youth and leadership. I think Pat Freiermuth's become a good captain in that room. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Season still to play out here, but that's probably where this thing's gonna end up.
All right, long-time emailer, first-time listener. That's interesting. Tyler Barr. Hey, Dave and Alex, just want to thank you guys for the best non-biased Steelers content out there. Helps me through the harsh Edmonton winter. So he's from Edmonton as well, too. He says, I'm about Alex's age, but I get Uncle Dave's references. You two remind me of the Smothers Brothers. I know you'll have to explain that, Dave. Happy late Thanksgiving and take care. Hey, lads. Tyler is obviously kind of like an old soul kind of individual. I bet Tyler is described as an old soul because he gets a Smother Brothers. Smother Brothers was an old, obviously brothers. I think it was Tom and Dick Smothers was their name.
Yeah, I just looked them up, Tom and Dick.
Yeah, and old Comedy Routine had comedy albums back when that was a thing. I remember growing up and my grandparents having the old turntable that looked like a long piece of furniture in the living room back. That's foreign to you, Alex. There, where you'd have a piece of furniture that you have a pop-up turntable in there and all, and then you have a cabinet with all the record albums in there. I remember there being some Smothers Brothers, late '60s, early '70s kind of comedy albums there. So, well, I appreciate that. I don't know, is it good or bad that we remind him of the Smothers Brothers, especially with the age differential there? The good thing about me and Alex is we have a lot of differences as far as the disconnect as far as pop culture and all, but Alex is a bit of an old man trapped in a young man's body, much as I am an old man trapped in an old man's body here. So Alex and I, get along passionately. We both love football. We love talking football. We love razzing each other now and then. Just we really work good together. So we appreciate that.
Yeah,
Tyler.
we do. And thank you for the email and stay warm up there in Edmonton.
One last one, a little bit of a long one here. Dean DeValia, I think, in preparation for this week's game against Chicago, I was discussing the matchup with a friend of mine who lives in Japan and happens to be a Bears fan. My buddy stuntman Mike grew up in Hawaii playing linebacker on his high school football team, and like me, relishes the extra physical brand of old school football reminiscent of the NFL in a bygone era. Therefore, our conversation naturally turned to that punishing run by Darnell Washington gobsmacked the Cincinnati defense with just before halftime. As we talked, Mike threw out a question that I couldn't answer if indeed there is a better answer than the one we are witnessing now on the Steelers offense. Here's his perspective and question he proposed. He was thinking with the mountain that runs, DK, Freiermuth, and Warren, the Steelers have to have the most physical ball carriers in the league this year, if not all time. Or at least that I know of. I'm having trouble coming up with everyone else with 4 physical ball carriers. He says Emmitt Smith, Moose Johnston, and Irvin from the 90s Cowboys, Bettis and Fuamato and Hines Ward. Who else is even in the discussion? So I guess he's talking about as far as a combination of, let's say, DK, or I guess 4, he says, in like Darnell, DK, Metcalf, Freiermuth, and Warren. What would be a similar age-old Steelers combination of, I don't know, you go back to Eric Green and who was running backs back then, and who was the full, wide receivers?
I don't even know. Barry Foster and Worley. It's a hard one to quantify and to think back about kind of a quartet of physical dudes. Pittsburgh certainly has them. All time feels like a little too strong. I'm sure we would have to take some time and come up with some other names there. But yeah, Pittsburgh can be a punishing group. That's who they want to be, and they just got to get more plays to really let that attrition set in.
Yeah, I think, and we got kind of joked with Adam Hogue as well too, right? The Bears want to push for 70 plus plays, whereas we're looking to see if this team can make 50 and all like that. Do you consider Freiermuth all that much of a physical guy? He's certainly not. He's a good blocker out in space, but he's just a get by type of guy as far as run game in the line of scrimmage there. So I know, I don't think of Pat Freiermuth being a punishing, physical guy in the league.
Well, I think the scope of that is not as a blocker, but as a receiver post catch, because he can certainly break some tackles and drag some people with him. Not like Darnell Washington, not quite the bowling ball that Jaylen Warren is, but I think he's a pretty physical, punishing guy who gets a lot of yak and can drag people. Remember that 19-yard catch against the Bengals, which granted Bengals, but I mean that
really started everything right there, really, because at that time, and I remember specifically like 2 plays before that, I said the tight ends don't have any receptions in this game. And he had the first one, and then that ultimately, I think he got the extra yardage and moved the chains. And then from that point forward, we started to see the tight ends utilized in the offense against the Bengals.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think that's kind of the scope in which he's addressing Freiermuth's physicality. So I think it's up there. But again, in terms of how that ranks, I mean, I couldn't even tell you where to begin with that type of a question. I'm sure there's other groups we could think about, but it's a physical group, and yeah, they just need more plays because, like I said, they're still dead last in plays, and the Bears are 3rd in the NFL in plays per game at about 65, which is about 10 more than what Pittsburgh is averaging per game.
And I think the biggest thing when you talk about these 4 specifically in Darnell, DK, Freiermuth, and Warren is the yards after the catch. We've talked about that all season there, and they're going to have a good game yards after the catch to beat the Bears. And that physicality obviously comes into play with those 4.
And just as I'm kind of thinking it out, I mean, the Bears are getting 10 more plays per game. They're basically getting a good drive per game more than what Pittsburgh is. And that just can make a big difference. So can Pittsburgh finally win the snap count one time, unless they're getting those defensive scores, then fine. I don't care about the snap count, but.
Or the 75 or 80 yard explosive plays, right?
Sure. But generally speaking, you just need a more volume of plays so you can get deeper into your bag and sustain and keep a pretty good Bears offense off the field.
All right. He says, regardless, thanks for your time, enlightened conversations, and entertaining platform that appeals to not only Steeler fans, but everyone who loves the game of football. Very nice words from you, Dean. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, time to wrap this up here. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. Ran a little bit long today, obviously, but we do that from time to time. Alex and I will be back, hopefully talking about how wrong we were about picking the Bears over the Steelers. Whatever happens, we'll talk about it on Monday. And let's see, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, we're the Smothers Brothers of Steelers podcast. So the terrible podcast at gmail.com. If you like what we do, even if you don't, we appreciate you for listening and all. And you can donate SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. You can use the ad-free button and subscribe that way to get an ad-free version of the site. Just click the button that way and enjoy the weekend, everybody. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.